on Thursday, June 13th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. at Sandy Oaks City Hall, located at 4451 Hickory Haven, Sandy Oaks, Texas, 78112, for the purpose of considering the following agenda items. All agenda items are subject to action. Item 1 on the agenda is a call to order and quorum call. Ms. Shelton?
Alderman Tremblay.
Here.
Alderman Rapino.
Here.
Alderman Walker.
Here.
Alderman Thomasini.
Here.
Alderman Garcia is absent, and we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Can we stand for Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3 on the agenda is our guests, and our first guest is a presentation by Amanda, is it Kiefer, or other representative from the Texas Department of State Health Services concerning animal control and animal shelters. Alderman Thomasini and Alderman Tremblay brought this forward, so I'll turn it over to them.
I can take one of the microphones. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Dr. Kiefer. I am the zoonosis control veterinarian for the Department of State Health Services here in Texas in Region 8, so I'm headquartered in San Antonio. What we do in the zoonosis control program is multifaceted. We mostly deal with rabies cases, but we also train animal control officers, and we inspect animal shelters around our region if they quarantine animals for rabies cases, like bite cases. So I was asked to come today to speak about animal shelters and answer any questions you might have. It's my understanding that your township is thinking of adding an animal shelter or building an animal shelter. For the purposes of the health department, again, we only inspect animal shelters if you're planning on quarantining animals there after a bite incident. Other than that, we just keep track of shelters to make sure they meet what are called minimum standards for shelters. And these are kind of common sense things, like sanitation is good, animals can stand up, turn around, walk around, they're not being housed with too many in one cage, that there's waste management, adequate hand washing facilities for staff. It's just, again, kind of common sense for the welfare of the animals, but also the health and safety and sanitation of the workers. So I don't know how much time I have, but that's kind of the general overview. As far as animal control, DSHS does help train animal control officers, so I'm not sure if your law enforcement agency here already has an animal control officer, but to become an animal control officer, they would come to one of our courses. It's a 2-day course, and then on the second day they take an exam. If they pass the exam, they become certified and able to do their animal control duties. It is up to your town or your law enforcement agency as to what level of authority they have, as in, like, can they write citations and things like that, or do they just mostly, trap animals, bring them to the shelter, or whatever the case. A lot of our smaller towns do make use of rescue organizations, so if you don't have a lot of space for a shelter, I'm not sure what your stray animal population is, it is good to partner with other agencies that can pick up certain animals once your shelter becomes too full. So that's kind of the long and the short of it. Are there specific questions?
Well, I was going to ask you about this form that as long as the shelter meets all of those requirements, it's open.
Yes, so we have a kind of a blueprint checklist here, and you're welcome to share this around. So it kind of has like the mandatory requirements and then optimum requirements for shelters. So again, big thing being, can it be sanitized and does it benefit the welfare of the animal? Okay, so the floors have to be impervious to moisture. They have to be able to be sprayed down and cleaned. There has to be a way of removing waste, on a daily, probably multiple times a day basis. There has to be proper drainage, okay, so that those animal wastes are not building up or causing vermin or odors for your town. There has to be proper ventilation. There has to be heating and or cooling depending on the temperature. So if temperatures get above 85 degrees, there has to be ambient cooling, whether that's air conditioning or fans, shade. You know, if it gets colder than 55, there has to be the ability of beds or blankets, or again, heating, so just, again, kind of common sense things to make sure that welfare of the animals is kept.
And the ones that are M are mandatory, right?
M's mandatory, O means optimal. So they're not required, but
Or
if
optional.
you want to do the absolute best, you would do the optimals. Other than that, yeah, because you guys are in Bear County, even though I'm sure what's your city population roughly?
About 4,000.
Yeah, but because you're in the county, the state law does go by county population and not city population. So the only extra requirement for you guys being in Bear County is that you do need to have what's called a rabies advisory board or a shelter advisory board. Maybe that can be part of the city council, but there has to be a veterinarian on it and other animal welfare interested persons to kind of make those decisions about the shelter and advise on the shelter or any issues you might be having with the animal control issues in your area. So that is one additional requirement that you guys have.
And one of the questions that's come up is after we trap an animal, how long can we keep it in a cage or the trap until we take it somewhere else?
So if you have traps set up outside of the shelter, you should be, especially in temperatures like this, you should be checking those traps several times a day, because you never want to be in a situation where an animal is in a trap and is out, baking in the sun or possibly predated on by fire ants or something like that, right? So if you know you have a trap set up, it needs to be frequently monitored. If you have an animal in the shelter, it's up to you. You can keep it as long as you want. The state does say that a city has to set what are called reclamation times. So you have the decision, is it going to be 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours? At what point do you give that owner time to come reclaim that animal before it can either be readopted to someone else or euthanized if that's your choice, or sent to a rescue or whatnot? But you do need to establish what is the hold time for that animal. But you can leave them in the shelter as long as you choose to.
Well, I was talking about keeping them in the trap or
Yeah.
the cage until we move them to a shelter.
Not very long. There's not really a set hour or time limit. Again, keeping in mind that you don't want to leave any animal out there more than a couple hours in a trap. So if you set up traps, you need to be checking them routinely.
Well, what if we had the trap or the cage in a covered area or something like that, in a shaded area?
That would be better, but you still have the possibility that someone could tamper with the trap, another animal could tamper with the trap. Again, bugs, rodents, whatever could get in there. So you just want to be concerned for the safety of the animal that you're trying to trap.
So this is a question for you, because I think what he's talking about is we purchased some kennels. They're 4x8, 4x10, something like that. And the purpose of them is if they get a phone call that there's an animal loose, our ACO goes out and picks up the animal before we can transport it to the vet, which is where we take them for vetting and for boarding until we find a rescue. We don't intend to keep them overnight. Every night, depending if we pick it up at 4:30, we're obviously not getting a vet appointment that evening, so we would hold it overnight there and then move it the next morning. That seems to be, I think, the point of contention here.
So that's not exactly an animal shelter. So this is like a temporary holding.
It is covered.
It's covered,
Yes.
So you want to make sure it's covered if those temperatures are either above 85 or below 55, there needs to be a means of keeping that animal comfortable, access to fresh water and food. So
Yeah, and we have people that
as
go
long
check
as
on
you're
them.
doing that, that is fine. It's just you never want to be in a situation where you're leaving an animal unattended
Right.
For more than a couple hours.
Okay.
Has to do with the size. You might have it indoors, you might bring it in here for 24 hours. It has to do with the trap size. Is it okay to confine the animal in that small of an area for that period of time?
Yeah, for less than 24 hours, yes. But again, in a shelter environment, they have to be able to stand up, turn around, sit down. Okay, so I understand, like in a cat trap, they're not necessarily going to be able to do that, or tomahawk or other trap, but you want to not keep them in there so long that it's going to affect their.
And I think there's a confusion about what he's talking about to what she's talking about. There's a difference between a trap and a Dachshund pet carrier.
Yeah,
If
so
you're
a
talking
trap.
about a trap where you actually trap the animal, that is only for them to actually basically stand up and that's it, they can't turn around. And if you're talking about a pet carrier, they can stand up and turn around it. And there's a big difference what he's talking about and what she's talking about.
Yeah, so I'm when I say trap, and what I thought you were referring to are those little collapsible metal traps that, you know, you put bait in and the animal gets trapped.
Oh, no,
in
it's a
there.
big one.
So if you're talking about like a dog kennel, like something you would keep in your home or garage or whatever, you know, that's sufficient for a 24-hour period. I wouldn't use it as a long-term solution, but yes, of course, the animal can stand, turn around. Something you would put your own pet in if you were leaving them there for the day.
Yeah.
Zoonosis, is there anything other than rabies that humans can contact from canines easily? Worms or anything like that?
Worms, yeah, so there's roundworms, hookworms, you know, dogs and cats can have fleas and ticks, which, you know, you don't get that from the animal, but the flea can then come onto you. The biggest
Are
concern
the worms
are,
from the soil, basically walking around barefoot in the soil?
that can be, but it's more often transmitted through feces and contact with feces. So if there is feces and you're handling it, or you need to clean it up, always wear gloves, make sure you wash your hands before eating, because the way to get the worms is to ingest those eggs that are in feces. There are some types of hookworms that do transmit through the soil. It's not as common around here, but it can happen. Same thing, you just don't want feces to be all over your yard. So make sure you're cleaning up feces on a regular basis.
Well, where do you take it? I mean, can you take it to a landfill then?
You could tie it up in a plastic bag and toss it in trash.
And Dr. Kiefer, you did mention about quarantine for rabies. We've had confirmed cases of parvo in some puppies and distemper in an older dog. Do we need to set up a separate quarantine?
So it
For
is a good
those-
idea, if you have a sick animal, to always keep them separate from other animals. Now, it's not in the state law or health code or anything like that. Parvo is very, very contagious. If you have a breakout in that in your shelter or your area, it's going to spread very rapidly,
Right.
especially if the animals are unvaccinated. So it is always good to have an isolation or quarantine kennel wherever you're planning to hold these animals.
Okay.
So for that purpose.
What do you mean separate? You just mean in separate cages, you don't mean like in separate
Separate
rooms
cages, but
or-
not that they can touch noses or that feces or urine can spread from one cage to the next.
So a solid wall between the two would suffice.
A solid wall would suffice, yeah.
How would the cages be decontaminated, say if a pup with parvo had been in there?
There are certain disinfectants that you can use. Bleach is the cheapest alternative, mixed at the proper concentrations. But other disinfectants that you can get commercially, they will list on there the types of viruses that they kill. And specifically for veterinary disinfectants, they will tell you if it kills parvovirus or not. But bleach is one.
And I think we
Although it
have,
is very
We have a
resistant in the
supply.
environment.
yeah, we've purchased a supply already to have on
Not of
hand.
bleach, but
The-
of a veterinary.
Like a quaternary disinfectant of some sort.
The rescue disinfectant.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned reclamation times, that the city can define those. I thought the state law was a mandatory 3-day hold.
No, the state law is that cities and ordinances can set reclamation times.
Okay.
Most do choose a 72-hour hold. It kind of depends on your shelter, the volume, and you know, some have it more strict or less strict than that, but the average is about 72 hours.
Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Kiefer? Well, thank you very much for coming out. I appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much for inviting me, and I will leave these resources here for you guys. And again, you can always contact me. Mr. Tomasini can provide you with my information if any of the additional questions you have.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay, moving on, our second guest under item 3 is a presentation from Tony Saucedo from Mendez Engineering on the city's master plan.
It kills my.
You want to come grab a microphone, or are you comfortable?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All
Okay.
right. We're gonna be starting the process of preparing a master plan, a comprehensive master plan for the city of Sandy Oaks. And what that is it's like a business plan for a business, but it's for a city. So we look at the streets, the quality of the streets, prioritize them, how we're gonna fix them. You know, every year you have a budget, you can do so much work. So you have a priority list of how they get done, how they get fixed, depending on how bad they are. Your utilities, water, your sewer, how they expand, how your city expands, your zoning, how you use your land, how you use your public facilities, like your parks. What do you want to see in your parks? How do you want to make it grow? How do you want to see your entrances, you know, more attractive or whatever? It's a plan that you don't do it once, you just do as little as you can, but it's in the plan. And it's used a lot by cities to get funding and stuff because you're following the plan as you're growing. They see a progression, so it's easy for you to get those type of monies flowing into the city. So we're starting the process. A big part of that is your input. So community involvement in the program has to happen. I mean, we got to include all of you in here so you can say what you want to do, and we're going to do that in several ways. We're still talking about that. How we're going to do that? Be online. We send you a letter. We'll talk to you. Just, you know, however we can get you out of here to talk, to let us know, we're looking at doing that. Yeah. Do you have any questions on that process?
So do you go to the PNC meetings?
Well, I'm gonna go. You just started that. You just have one so
I
far.
know.
I'm gonna
Yeah, I
leave
wasn't
them.
aware of that, but
Yeah.
now I am.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a very big part
Yes,
of the
it
plan.
is.
So, yes.
Yes, how do grants fit into that? Does that help get grants or?
It helps when you have a plan,
Right.
right? Because you're following based on this plan, we're asking for this. You know, and then the county, the CBDG bonding and stuff like that, that's a big help for that. Especially for your public facilities, your police.
Is there, I understand there's a pretty long lead time to get a grant approved to,
I'm not sure if you do have a lead time. I'm guessing that if you push it and you have the right way to pursue it, I think you're pretty successful.
Can I
Yeah.
comment on that? So about grants, we're not eligible for any grant funding at this time. We have to do what's called an economic survey. And once that is done, that will determine where we fit into it's LMI, low to medium income, is that, or, yes. And so we have to fit within a certain range on that. So that's something that we'll be talking with Tony about as we're doing the plan, incorporating getting the economic survey done. And it requires participation from everybody. Everybody has to participate, or we're not going to get valid data.
does the census help?
The census does not help
Not
that.
at all?
It's totally separate. This is done through HUD.
Yeah. Any ideas? Any questions? Something you'd like to see?
No, that's all. That's answered my question.
All right. Any other questions? Go ahead.
You say you need this plan and our input, how long would it take to formulate that? I know that depends on what kind of input you got, but kind of a roundabout figure?
Maybe 3 to 4 months. Look at that. Once we find out how we're gonna contact you, how we can get to you, we'll start the process really fast and try to get to you as fast as we can so we can get all the data.
How do you implement that?
That's what we're gonna decide on. We're gonna have our first meeting to decide how we can implement that to you. We're just starting out right now. You should know now. So if you see me driving around, looking at the roads or looking at something, not trying to do anything bad. Yeah, and you can stop me and ask me at any time. My information will be available to you at any time. You can call me.
So what do you be driving?
I drive that Dodge out there. Or the Toyota. Now it's a Toyota. Yes, it's a pickup. It's a pickup.
The red one?
And I've been driving around, trying to find my way around here. I've lost a couple times already. Anything else? It's a good time to think about what you like.
Does your truck have company logo on it?
I can put a company logo. How about one of those stick-em thingies?
That'd probably be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has a magnet thing. I got one.
So we're trying to formulate how we're going to proceed with this in the next newsletter that's going to be published. We hope to have
Yeah.
something lined out in there, so you can look for that in the
And looking for
newsletter.
ways, does everybody have access to internet and stuff? You all go to the website? So those that don't, we have to go, we have to get to you somehow. It'll be on the website, you can go there. We just gotta find a way to get a hold of as many people as we can. So if you know of anyone that's hard to get a hold of.
So right now, you said you're in town every day or every
No,
other day?
no,
Every
no,
day?
right now, we're gonna schedule our meeting to decide how we can better get to you, right? Once we do that, then I'll be coming around to do other things,
Right.
besides that. But you can, contact
Get a
us.
hold of it.
Okay, any other
Anything
questions?
else? And anytime you have a question, feel free.
Will you have a business card or something like that, where if
Yes.
I come up with an idea or something?
Yes.
Like, I don't do the internet, so you don't. But,
You can call me.
You got business card?
Absolutely, yeah. Yes, I'll get you one. And I'll have some, and my information will be, well,
You
he
can get
doesn't
it-
have access. He doesn't have access to the internet.
Yeah, but he knows how to find us.
Yeah, I'll have some information here too. Once we figure out what we're gonna do, we'll have a little flyer, and we'll have it here.
Right.
Contact information for anything you need.
Y en español también.
Y también si quiere, dos veces, por los dos lados, en inglés. Okay. So la pregunta, si tienen preguntas, me la puede preguntar en español, si quiere, y le contesto en español. Okay. We're good? So
Thank
wanna
you.
raise now.
Thank you, Tony. Okay, item number 4 on the agenda is citizens to be heard. This item will be open for up to 30 minutes with 3 minutes to each speaker. If there's more than 10 speakers, each will be given 2 minutes. And we have, looks like 6 speakers. First up is it Sandy Prado?
That's me.
Is it Sandy? Is that what this?
Yes.
Thank you.
This question will not take long. My question is, how long is the contract with Tiger through the town, city, or through you, community, and when does the contract expire?
Good question.
They're gonna answer.
Why not? They can't, they won't answer.
I know it's on the website. Go up to Services and Community.
Because when something is not on the agenda, we can't talk about it. We have to give a 72-hour notice that something is going to be discussed by the council. And so that's why the council can't address a specific question unless it's a fact. So, but something regarding Tiger.
Right, does it show right there?
Excuse me?
The computer's in front of you.
That's
Yeah,
what
that's
we're
what
looking,
we were
that's what
gonna
we're
look
doing.
up.
If you'll just hold on a moment.
From what I
So-
recall, I believe it's a 5-year
It was a
contract.
5-year.
I just don't remember when it was.
Go to
implemented.
Services and Community, go to Trash and Recycling, and scroll down to the, right here. Why is there no link? This is driving me crazy.
It's on the ordinance or?
No, it was, the contract was online, it's not there anymore. There's a placeholder for it, but it's not on there.
If you'll call me on Monday, I'll have that information for you.
It was a 5-year contract, we just don't have it readily available when it started.
Besides the trash picking up the community, what else benefits do we get from Tiger?
So we can't answer any questions, but if you would like to contact somebody from the council, they'll be happy to, any of the council members or the city clerk can answer your questions.
And you can obtain a copy of the contract, because that's public record if you want to look and see what is included with that contract and what benefits the city has and what citizens have. But right now, we are trying to look for it on the website. It's not on the website.
Ah, Okay, so when the time comes when it expires, y'all gonna review the contract with Tiger or somebody else?
We can't discuss that we can't answer those questions. They're not on the agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
But both pickup is this Saturday, when the alderman just informed.
Yes. Okay, item 3, or I'm sorry, number 2 on here is Grace Alvarado.
We're going to talk about the CMV amendments today, and I just wanted to touch base with you again. I have been talking to some aldermen, and hopefully, of course, we don't know what they decided, but I wanted to read this. We wanted to express our concerns regarding the charges still being considered for CMV owners. We are concerned with the neglect to take into consideration the wear and tear these other big trucks are causing. Buses, trash trucks, dump trucks, large quarter-ton trucks, septic trucks, cement trucks, gravel trucks, and mobile home transporters. Now, I lost my place. Hold on. We understand, and we have read the ordinance. We read where there are exceptions, as they are servicing the city in one way or another. We know that's why they're allowed. This does not mean because they are exempt from the ordinance and allowed to travel the roads that the damage they cause somehow magically doesn't happen. What I am saying is that you all expect us, the truckers, to foot the bill for your roads. This is not about safety, it's about money. Why not assess a fee to all the residents? Because they rely on these service providers to come into the city. Why should the truckers bear the entire burden? As I have mentioned previously, how do you prove how much of the damage is caused by any of these? This is not your typical residential area. We're in the county. These aren't your typical residential size lots compared to the subdivisions in the city. We have 2 lots. Again, we are asking for the amendments being considered to be fair. We shouldn't have to pay to park on our own property. Thank you.
Number 4, Debbie Martinez.
I'll pass.
I finished too quick.
She did.
I'm sorry?
Grace finished too fast. I'll pass.
I was trying to make it short. I know you have a busy agenda.
Jessica Villanueva.
Yeah, they were signing up for me.
Conrad Alvarado.
Also.
Yeah, I passed.
I usually take too long.
And last is Jose Morales.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
Oh, okay. Okay. Item 5 is the financial and budget report. The income and expenses will be reported by the city clerk, Catherine Yelton, in possible discussion.
So the balance as of May 1st, 2019 was $620,406.44. We had checks and payments of $34,508.22. Deposits and credits of $46,008.97. We do still have one outstanding check of $35.90, bringing a balance as of May 31st, 2019 of $631,871.29.
Are there any questions from the council? Okay, no questions? Okay. Okay, item 6, consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered routine by the City Council of the City of Sandy Oaks and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. So we have 3 items on here. First one is approval of the minutes from the regular City Council meeting on May 9th of 2019. Second item is approve April 2019 invoice number 1205 from Casan and Ortiz PC for City Attorney Services not to exceed $3,706.80. And the third item is to approve Judge Molina's request for payment in the amount of $300 for the municipal court.
And Mayor, everyone else has the ones I marked through on their agenda, which I marked it through ours.
We don't have the minutes for one of the meetings.
Oh, so, okay, that's why I didn't read it, because on mine, they weren't prepared. They weren't ready. That's why we just have the 2.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda in toto without
The minutes from the 22nd.
the minutes from the 22nd of May 2019.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to to approve the consent agenda items, excluding the minutes from May 22nd. Do we have a second? Alderman Walker seconds. Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? It is unanimous. Item number 7A, discuss and/or possible action on the purchase of a police cruiser and the delivery cost. Mr. Roberts has been busy tracking this down for us, and, oh, I see a new shiny thing on here. So I'll let you talk about what you found and what you recommend.
The vehicles that are in front of you, I would advise against the four-wheel drive Expedition because it was an undercover car. And it does not have a larger alternator or radiator or electrics that go into cars that are specifically built to be police cars. We have one of those sitting over here in the cantonment area. Of the others, the Chevrolets, the one with 13,000 miles on it came from a federal law enforcement agency in the state of California.
No, excuse me. We can't hear you.
Came from a law enforcement agency in California. The outfit that collects these vehicles and then retails them is in a suburb of Chicago. They have a long history of providing not junk, but reasonably cared for used vehicles. Because in most instances, police officers have 2 speeds in police cars, wide open and off. And as we all know, that's no way to treat any kind of piece of machinery. So these have been well cared for. They don't come with a warranty, but with 13,000 miles on it, you can't be too bad off.
Is that the 2012?
Yeah, the 2012.
Yep, 14.8 on mileage.
There's another one in there.
There's a 10, a 13, or 2 10s, sorry. There's a 10, a 12, and a 13.
Here's one that has 3,695 miles on it. And this one too came from a federal government agency here in Texas. Now, too bad we couldn't have caught it before it moved to Chicago. But the delivery price is $750 added on to the price you see listed. I would go for the lowest mileage one and have them deliver it, so that would make it, you know, whatever that 10.9 is plus 750.
So why is this 2010, why does it only have 3,600 miles on it?
Well, having been a veteran of the federal government for over 22 years, if I could answer a question like that, I'd never ever work another day in my life. I have no explanation for that. Obviously, it was in a fleet somewhere that it was not utilized.
But it has the larger radiator. I mean,
Yes,
all,
ma'am.
it's equipped like we would need it.
It is a police cruiser.
The 2010.
The 2010, yeah.
Yes.
It also has rear vinyl seats.
Rear vinyl seats?
Right.
The
Which
others
would be
I think
helpful.
are front.
Because the people that ride in the back aren't always,
Yeah.
yes.
They always like to leave presents.
Yes, ma'am.
And so regardless of what if we decide to do any of these, we still have to outfit it with all the
Yes,
gear,
ma'am.
which is a different,
Totally different story.
exactly. So the 2012 has 14,800 miles for 11,795. And the 2013 has 36,750 miles at 10,995. Your recommendation is the 14,800?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm very leery of this very low mileage on a 9-year-old vehicle. That's something just doesn't seem
Do we
right.
know most manufacturers warranty the drivetrains for 100,000 miles?
Not on these.
Not on these.
Not on special service vehicles.
No way.
sir. I think that'd be a great way to put GM back in bankruptcy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of drawn away from that.
Hangar
Like
Queen of
3,600
3,000
miles and just,
It's, yeah,
it's kind of
that
like
seems kind of,
Mayor.
too good to be true it is.
we can't, public comment, we don't, now we're back in session. So this would be your recommendation?
Yes,
What
ma'am.
would be the time from order to delivery?
10-day delivery.
10-day delivery.
Once they receive a certified check in that amount, then we get it in 10 days or less.
Okay. And all of these vehicles are not sold to the public. This is,
Well, I don't know of a
Oh.
prohibition against selling
okay,
them to the public.
okay,
But that's all this guy specializes in is emergency vehicles.
okay.
Are they still available as of today?
I'm
Are they
sorry?
still available as of today?
As of today, yes, ma'am. I had to think that I called you today, and I
But none of them have warranties.
did. No, ma'am.
Now, we have discussed in the past a new vehicle. But just to purchase the vehicle itself without any outfit was gonna run around $50,000. We have a very small footprint here. I don't know that we need fancy smancy. You know, we may grow to that in the future, but I think right now, because we're looking at, bringing on an additional deputy, that we're gonna need the 2 vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
I just had the same concern about the price versus the low mileage
On the low one, the low end?
on actually
Can't hear you.
2 of them. I had a concern about the price versus the low mileage on 2 of them, on 2 of the vehicles. Both of those, no, one of them is 9 years old and one of them is 7 years old.
Mm-hmm. The one that is the 2013 actually came from California, so I'm sure it is equipped differently than...
Emissions.
Yeah. Right.
And we're probably looking at another 5,000 to 6,000 to outfit it.
Oh, well, the one out there was 18,000 to outfit it. Yes, it was.
That much?
Yes.
I think we could do a little bit better than 18,000.
Is the second one going to need a rack for
Sure.
a gun?
It's gonna
also?
be a police vehicle.
A regular?
It's gonna need the lettering, it's gonna need all the cameras and the gear and the what do they call that, backseat window thing? It's gonna need
Hawker
everything.
blocker.
A what?
A
Hawker blocker.
It's a trade name, so it'll be gone.
So does anyone have any suggestions, recommendations, any further discussion?
There's nothing in town we can actually go look at and drive.
Yes, sir. There are 2 Dodge Chargers, both of them in excess of 100,000 miles at Southwest.
Public safety.
Thank you. Both of them been rode hard and put away wet. I've looked at both of them.
And I did check with Bear County on their surplus, availability of surplus. And they will have some available, but they're all going to be over 100,000 miles on them.
Yes, sir.
That's when they're turning them loose, so, yeah,
And that's a big concern with the vehicle we have now, as we're talking about, it has a lot of miles on it.
right. I mean, this, in my opinion, this is a relatively small investment that will buy us
Right.
some time for a few more years. And then we can reassess the situation at that time. But I'm not real comfortable going into a $50,000 brand new vehicle when we could get something like this that may work for us for a while.
And because they are special services vehicles, they have 300 horsepower, so I don't think they'll use all of it to get from the dollar store down here.
I'd kind of lean to the 2012 with 14,800 miles. It's right in
Give me an
between there.
option in case he sold it tonight.
Well, then
Give me
we
the 1-2.
move up to the one with 36,000 miles on the 13.
Okay.
Either go up to 2012 or to 2013. So I'd move that we authorize the city administrator to negotiate purchase of the 2012 Chevy Impala Cruiser for a price not to exceed $11,795 with a $750 delivery charge. And if that vehicle is not available, then we would make the offer on the 2013 Chevy Impala for $10,995, also with a $750 delivery fee.
Thank you, Steve.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second, motion from Alderman Tremblay and a second from Alderman Rapino to authorize the interim city administrator to authorize the purchase of one of 2 vehicles. Number 1 is the 2012 Chevy Impala. If that one is not available, then to pursue the 2013 Chevy Impala. Do we have a show of hands in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your work on that. Item 7B is discuss and, 7B, discuss and or possible action on revised Bexar County Sheriff's Office San Antonio interlocal agreement for dispatch services. So, some of you may remember that we did approve an ILA for Bexar County dispatch services. However, what was presented to us and what we approved was incorrect. So I've been working with Bexar County. We have, do all of you have this? Catherine, did you not give them all copies? You couldn't find it? Cool. So there's several things here, and they have moved. When we talked about this a few years back, there was discussion that they would be moving to a paid service. At the time, they didn't have that. They were going to upgrade their services, their radios, their system, everything, and they would be going to basically a prorated usage for utilizing the services. That's where we're at. Everything has changed. None of this information was shared with us previously. So there's several things that we need to identify on here. And I have been in contact with Judge Wolf's office. They are on standby to put this on their next agenda. In fact, I'm meeting with them on Friday, assuming I have another thing I have to sign for them. But for this particular thing, they will take it from us. Catherine? I'll need 3 copies.
3?
Yes.
I think I did find.
They want 3 signed copies brought to them, assuming that we approve this. This piece is so important because the marshal's office cannot function without it. They can't do traffic stops. They have no backup. They have no radio. We can't get a radio unless we have this in place. So this is very important to the marshal's office, and as we're interviewing candidates for both the marshal and the deputy positions and the reserve officers, it would be nice to have this in place when they show up on day 1. So I think what I'd like to do, well, let me ask if you have any questions on some of these things, or is it just, well, here's the deal. This is it. This is not negotiable. This is not something that we get to say, well, we don't like that, we want this.
It's a prorated cost. What, do we have an idea what this?
Well, there is, so let me give you an idea here. And this is one of the things that we talked about, that Ken and I were talking about. We're not quite sure, this is talking outside of our understanding, although I did get some information on this. So what they're going to bill us on is what they call talk groups. So a talk group is Bear County Sheriff's Office. Another one would be the fire department. I don't know what other talk groups may or may not be available. That's what I'm hoping the marshal, when they come in, would be able to answer that for us. So at minimum, we're looking at 2 talk groups. And the talk groups are $500 each per year, and then they can either bill us annually or monthly. And then they want to know how many radios we want to activate. Those are $18 per radio per month. And that's to be billed either annually or monthly.
So we'll be, pretty much, our radios will be coming from the county. We won't have to go out and
No.
purchase radios.
We have to go purchase the
We
radios.
still have to purchase radios.
They're
but
about-
The cost is to put them onto their system.
Yes, so they can be programmed for the
Okay.
talk groups. So the
And they will
radios,
program them?
huh?
They're programming the radios. They'll
When we
program them.
purchase the radios, I think Daily Wells is who we were working with. They will do that. There's information they need from us, the ILA, of course. We have all of our backup documentation that we needed to even get to this point. So we've done everything we need to do except execute this. So they will not even sell us a radio until we have this in place.
And do we know the cost of the radios?
About $4,000 a piece. So, and that's just the handheld radios.
Yes, ma'am.
That's not the, and we,
Vehicles.
yes, and we talked about doing, I forget what Ken called it, a grab and go or something like that, that it mounts in the vehicle and then they can take it and leave with it. So if we're gonna have a full-time, a part-time deputy and at least 2 reserves, there's possibly 4 radios right there. So that would be about $12,000 just on radios. And then if we do the 2 talk groups, that's $1,000 a year. And then I need a calculator for the rest of that. 18 a month times 4. 18 times 4 is a month times 12 months. What'd you come up with?
864.
That's what I came up with. So let's say 4 radios are going to cost us 16 grand, and the radio registrations, that's what I'll call them, I don't know what they call it, radios activated. Let's put that at $900. And then the talk groups, that would be 2 at $500 a year, so that's $1,000 a year.
If that's all we need.
Well, it gets us started. It's what we know now, and that's one of the things the candidates that we select for the city marshal would have more expertise in this area than we do, and they'll know more what they need, but that would get us started.
And 2 should be sufficient to start.
I don't know what the lead time is, how long it takes to do that. And my thought is if we went ahead and had the 4, if one breaks or is inoperable, we still have a backup.
Well, Bailey Wells has a system as to if yours breaks, you take it to them, they give you a loaner while they repair it.
Perfect.
Just trying to minimize the out-of-pocket cost at first.
Mm-hmm. So in the marshal's budget, we have 50,000, we have 44,000 still remaining in the marshal's equipment. And so if we took this 26,000 plus the, let's say, 13 for the vehicle, we're still under budget. That's 39,000, and we have 44 budgeted, so we would be fine on making those purchases.
Then retrofitting the vehicle.
Then we'd have to retrofit the vehicle.
Well, and we can't operate without this ILA. I mean,
Exactly. We cannot operate without it.
And there's no negotiable point in it.
No.
It's the only game in town.
Yeah. And I'll make sure that y'all have copies of this. Were you able to find it?
I found like 5, 6 attachments. Do you want them all?
One, there's exhibits A through E. Yes, that would be all of them. Yeah, go ahead and print copies for everybody, and then y'all can have that to take with you and get, see if you have any other.
Electronic is fine.
Pardon?
Electronic is fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Electronic?
Yeah.
Okay, electronic is fine.
Print off
That makes
stuff.
it easier.
As long as the attorney's look over it.
She's looked at it, but again,
It's like
it's not
Mirabelle
negotiable.
said, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Take it or leave it.
Now, I think the question becomes, who's actually going to sign this? Is it going to be you or me?
I think it ought to be you.
If the county judge signs theirs, it's probably more.
The county
appropriate to
judge.
sign.
Yes, ma'am.
They did ask me to look on here and see if there was any reference to the county manager signing off on this, and there is not. Okay. Yeah, because I got a different manager in the round. Okay, so would somebody like to make a motion on this?
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve the Bear County Sheriff's Office SAILA for dispatch services.
Okay.
Do you need numbers? Put that in the box.
Do we want to include the number of radios and talk groups on here?
Can we do that?
We can do that.
2 radios,
You want to do 2?
isn't that what we said?
No, we did 2 talk groups and 4 radios. Now the radios, we would tell them how many radios. The radios we purchase separately. And we've already approved the purchase of one of the radios. So we would have to do that in a separate action.
When you get into the talk groups, you're talking about a channel.
A channel.
On the radio.
Yes.
So we're going to ask for 2 talk groups for what purpose?
BCSO and the fire department. Those are the only 2 I can think of myself. Like I said, when we hire in the marshal, I'm sure that they'll have an opinion on other resources that they may
Right.
need access to. I don't know what those are. I mean, we can start with 2. If we need to add more, we'll come back and revisit it and file
Yeah,
a
'cause I don't know
supplemental.
What else, who else from Bear County is on those groups?
Right.
'Cause I did programming when I was
Right.
working at Blackman, and I mean, you can have, 8, 10 talk groups. You want to talk to somebody, emergency services, Bear County.
That may be
talking to those folks coming up
one.
with weather
It
weather
could be Bear
alerts,
County
if
Office
we
of
have
Emergency Management. I
right,
don't
if we have
know.
a big event here in the city, and we need to get a hold of somebody at the county, then that's another group there. So,
Right.
Yeah.
But I think if
can
we
wait
start
until
with
we
the
get-
2, and then we can always
Okay,
revisit
yeah,
it.
just so everybody else understands
Right.
what those talk groups means.
You can always call emergency management on the phone.
So,
Right.
Alderman Tomasini, would you like to,
Then added to what I already said.
or revise it, however you want to do that.
I will include that we get 4 radios and get involved or pay for 2 talk groups.
And 2
However
talk groups. Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Thomasini to approve the interlocal agreement with BCSO for dispatch services and to include the registering for 4 radios and 2 talk groups at this time.
Second.
And Alderman Rapino seconds that. Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? That's unanimous, okay, thank you. Oh, I just did all of that on the wrong place. Okay. Item 8A, discuss and or possible action on responses to an RFQ for banking services. I actually put this on the agenda for Alderman Rapino.
You want me to give some history on this, Mayor?
I would, yes. And could you, yes, there you go.
The Public Funds Investment Act requires us to change banks that hold our funds every 5 years. So we were required, since it's coming up on 5 years, our current bank is Chase. We put out a request for proposals for other banks to pick up that requirement for us. We got 0 entries for that. We went out again. I called Frost Bank. They were interested, and they were going to submit a proposal, but it came back that the deadline had passed already to submit proposals. So they called up and asked, could we extend it? I extended it to June 28th, since the 30th is on a Sunday. I talked to Manuel Long today to see where they were. He said it's in the back office, that they don't think they would have any problem getting it to us by the 28th of June. But I did tell them if they did, we could probably extend it a little longer. So I expect to see that proposal come in, and we would probably then switch our banking services to Frost Bank in the near future. So that's where that stands right now.
Now, the fact that they didn't meet the deadline, it now becomes what's called an unsolicited bid, where we can actually go out and, so do we need to keep offering an extension, or can we just work with them until?
Given the response that you got initially.
A deadline.
Whatever you get, go with Frost.
Okay.
Because they charge municipalities no accounts maintenance fees. They charge you nothing for checks. They charge you nothing for deposit bags. And anybody around you in any municipality that has to collateralize money above the $250 that FDIC covers, they have to go to Frost to sell that collateralization. So as far as a full-service bank for municipalities, Frost was awfully good to us in Selma.
Yeah, and they seem very interested in taking that up for us, so.
That's good PR for them.
Okay, so there's no action on this item, just an update. Okay, thank you, Alderman Rapino. Okay, let's move on to item 8B, which is discuss and or possible action on amending ordinance I think that's supposed to say 2018-92, authorizing a change to the day, time, and location of city council meetings. We've been doing a lot. We've been getting a lot done. We're busy addressing a lot of issues, and what happens is we're meeting once a month, and our meetings are very long. They're 4 hours. And I'm thinking in an effort to not burn everybody out, if we could break this up and do 2 regular meetings a month, we could maybe whittle these down to hopefully no more than 2 hours is my goal. If we could have a meeting every 2 weeks. Plus, it allows us a little bit more flexibility. We bring something to the table, maybe we don't get it totally resolved, and it gives us a 2-week window to go finalize that and bring it back to the table, and not have to wait another 30 days, or call a special meeting. Pardon? You like?
We were doing it.
I know.
Now why we stopped.
I don't know.
It didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Once a month, just, it's too long in between meetings.
It is too long.
And I agree, when you come in session, we've had meetings with, well, we've got in excess of 20 items on the agenda. I think we have one with 28 items.
Right.
I mean.
Yeah, but who's counting?
Yeah, well, I am. But, yeah, I'd move that we approve ordinance, City Council of Sandy Oaks, authorizing change of date and time and location of the regular city council meetings. That would be changing the meeting time to the second and last Thursday of the month.
So this says second and fourth.
How about second and fourth?
Second and last, well, yeah, second and fourth.
Second and fourth.
Yeah, second and last, second and fourth. What happens when
His
there's
problem is
5?
last one.
We're still only going on the 4th.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve ordinance 2019-132, which is changing the date, time, and location of city council meetings. There'll be 2 regular meetings on the 2nd and the 4th Thursday of each month. We have a second by Alderman Rapino. And may I get a show of hands of those in favor? Okay, that is unanimous. Okay, moving on to item 8C. Discuss and/or possible action on a resolution requiring notification from Bexar County Environmental Services when issuing an on-site sewage facilities, also known as an OSSF permit. This is really a means to start with our planning and zoning, and understanding that there's activity occurring in the city. And so in talking with Andy Winter with Bexar County, basically what he said was if the city council passed a resolution that just says when Bexar County septic permits receives an application, that they don't approve that until such time as the city is notified. And then we have an opportunity to run that through our planning and zoning, whatever guidelines we have in place, then we give them notification, yes, you're good to go on that.
I tried to do this a couple of years ago.
I know.
Said they couldn't do it.
Well-
They wouldn't do it.
Well,
Well, it's great. I mean, yeah, this is, sure.
okay, so,
I move to approve the resolution of City Council, Sandy Oaks, requesting Bexar County Environmental Services notify and obtain approval from the city prior to the issuance of a septic on-site sewage facility permit.
okay. We have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino. All in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous. And I have had a request that we call a short break. Well, she's not the only one. We're going to take a health break for, let's make it 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and pick up.
Something that needs to be readdressed, so let's readdress it. Basically, I believe everybody has a redlined version.
Yes.
Okay. So the front one, to my knowledge, does not need to be addressed yet. Does the front page need to be addressed?
Well, we are amending
At
that.
this moment?
Yes.
At this moment or at the end?
Well, I think the best way to do this is how we've done it in the past with our ordinances is, do we need to include this, or is that just standard language for?
It's just a recital of why the ordinance is proposing to be amended or why it would be amended. It doesn't need to be addressed specifically unless somebody wishes to strike it out or add some language to it, then that would be addressed specifically as an amendment to the proposed ordinance.
Okay, so what's been added here is a statement that says, whereas the city adopted ordinance 2019-124, implementing commercial parking regulations upon or within public and residential property within the city, and the final whereas statement is striking out a portion, so it did read, whereas the city council finds that it is in the best interest of the citizens of the city to implement commercial parking regulations upon or within public and residential property within the city. It now will read, whereas the city council finds that it is in the best interest of the citizens of the city to amend ordinance number 2019-124. And then we can get into the actual sections here. And so back to how we should address this. So section 3D, we would, someone would make a motion after discussion, then we would approve or vote on that one, and at the end, make a motion for the overall ordinance as amended.
Right.
Okay?
So section 3, regulation of parking by commercial vehicles, D is added. A person who parks or leaves unattended a commercial vehicle as permitted by this ordinance is required to park or leave unattended his or her commercial vehicle on a hard surface such as asphalt or concrete.
So can you explain, like give an example or a reason why that was put on here?
Would you like to handle that one?
Well, it's just one of the things that we, the council consider. We don't require regular cars or any cars in our city to be parked on a hard surface.
But what's the purpose of this? Is this something that is a concern?
No, not for me. I thought it was you that put it on there.
No, you added
No, I didn't. Well, I was just saying what we could do. I would not recommend that we do that, no.
it. Okay. Does anybody have any other discussion on that?
I think it's good policy. I mean, you've got commercial vehicles that don't fit on lots that are residential lots, and then they park them on the grass in front of the house or whatever. They should be on a hard surface, whether it be asphalt, concrete, or a driveway that is built with road base. It's a parking area. It's not sitting on grass or on, and I know there's not a lot of grass in the city, but there are lawns of some type. So I actually think this is a good amendment.
Is there a concern with that, or is it just an aesthetic?
Aesthetic.
Well, and the reason I'm asking is I'm just running through several scenarios. One would be you have, and it's talking specifically about leaving an unattended parking or leaving unattended. So you could have a utility truck out here.
Correct, and I think if you read the exceptions at the end of this, in the ordinance, there are exceptions for vehicles that are servicing residents, such as utility companies, gas companies.
Right.
If someone is moving in and out, a moving company which is providing a service would be exempt. Those type of businesses are exempt from the ordinance.
So are you suggesting then that, I know there's a location on Skyla that is a full yard of vehicles there. Is the expectation that they would have to pave that or put road base or something?
Are these commercial vehicles or?
No, they're commercial vehicles.
They're commercial vehicles, yes, and they would have to.
So their entire lot would have to be.
If they're, and again, the ordinance is going to get a little deeper. This is, I think this just relates to parking a vehicle in a residential, on a residential lot.
And that particular lot is residential. It just
Okay.
happens to be being used differently.
Because it says such as asphalt or concrete, maybe Cassandra can clear this up. It says hard surface. Does that also apply to gravel?
The road base,
packed-
yeah.
Or does it apply to packed dirt, or do we need to be more specific?
Sure, because there are a lot of residents that don't have asphalt or concrete driveways. There are many that have made driveways that are just road-based gravel. So that is a hard surface.
What about
So-
packed dirt? Because I was thinking of the one vehicle location that Nikki was referencing. It's packed dirt.
Right, it should be a hard surface such as we're defining asphalt, concrete, or we can add in there road base.
Or road base.
And so, just my opinion on this particular one is I understand regulating the parking of the vehicles, but this kind of mandates that those that are allowed to park would have to incur an additional expense to make improvements on their property to do this. And I just don't know that
If they don't already have it.
if they don't already have it.
Right, and this is totally an attempt to beautify the city. The Texas Transportation Code gives us the authority to regulate parking on private property and public property. Transportation Code 545.307 regulates parking on private and public property. There's also the Texas Local Government Code, which gives us the authority to regulate parking. There was just recently House Bill 1563 introduced that would furthermore enforce supporting or enforcing the no parking regulations within cities and municipalities. That one addresses Texas Local Government Code 601.001, parking on public and private property. So I think, and it's all just an attempt, again, is to beautify the city. And so this is only one of the tools in our toolkit.
So if this were to pass, would you have a time frame that it would be required to be implemented?
Well, again, I think
There's a time frame later on in the.
there is a time frame at the end of the ordinance which stipulates about 1 August 2019, which probably is not enough time. You probably have to stipulate in this amendment a time frame.
That's what I'm thinking on
In
this
this
particular.
Right.
Is that right, Cassandra?
If it's going to be separate or different from the rest of the ordinance.
Got it.
Right. So in this one, you'd probably maybe give 120 days for compliance from the date the ordinance is approved, which would be 4 months.
4 months, yeah.
So we can consider a road base, a hard
Yes.
surface?
Right. Yes.
So consider it as of, or by November 1st, is that?
I think do you want to put a date or do you want to put a number of days?
120 days from the date this
120
ordinance is
days.
approved,
Okay.
or approval of the ordinance,
What's the effective?
effective date.
Because
right.
we would have to publish it, and then there is language of August 1st, whichever is later. So publication.
Right, yeah, if we get to that part, but
So how would you
So-
add in the 120-day reference here?
Something such as
compliance to be adhered within 120 days of passage of this ordinance.
Or effective date of this ordinance?
Right.
The other thing I was wondering about this is the exceptions for parking are actually in section 3C. So I'm wondering, Cassandra, do these need to be reversed so that this recommendation comes first and the exceptions are second?
I think this is in addition to C1 and 2.
So would we need to
In
make
addition to
reference
C1
in
and 2?
D to reference back to C?
I don't think so.
Well, I think that's why it was as permitted by this ordinance.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, is there any other discussion on this one? Okay, would somebody like to make a motion?
Okay, I move that we approve the amendment to Section 3D as
As presented,
as presented,
with the addition
with
of,
the addition of conforming within 120 days of effective date.
effective date of the ordinance. Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve item 3D as presented with the addition of reference to compliance within 120 days of the effective date of this ordinance. Do we have a second?
I second.
Alderman Walker seconds. Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, you want to move on to the next one?
Well, the next one is Section 4, limitation on time commercial vehicle may remain idle. The addition of number 3, warm-up and cool-down exemption. The primary propulsion engine of commercial vehicle is being operated at idle to conform to the manufacturer's warm-up and cool-down specifications, or the commercial vehicle was being operated for maintenance or diagnostic purposes.
So I had a question on this one as well. The ordinance for the anti-idling ordinance, which is really a national program. It's been defined at the national level, adopted at the county level, and adopted at the city level as well. Is there any vehicle that would not comply within, and I want to say it's 10 minutes, the 10-minute idle?
Yes.
And if there are, I'd be curious, because I would imagine that the lobbyist would have addressed that.
Actually, it is addressed in the state legislature in section 382.0191, idling of motor vehicle. In this section, idling means allowing an engine to run while the motor vehicle is not engaged in forward or reverse motion. The commission may not prohibit or limit the idling of any motor vehicle with a gross vehicle weight rating greater than 8,500 pounds that is equipped with a 2008 or subsequent model year heavy-duty diesel engine or liquefied or compressed natural gas engine that has been certified by the United States Environmental Protection Agency or other state environmental agency to emit no more than 30 grams of nitrogen oxides emissions per hour when idling.
So how prevalent is that in the industry today?
That, as far as I can tell, there are vehicles, commercial vehicles, that applies to, that need to run for up to 20 minutes, some 30, but most 20 minutes. I cannot specify exactly which ones. I have been told by more than one truck driver about that, people in the trucking industry.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Texas Administrative Code Title 30, under Rule 114.510, and it has specified a 5-minute rule, and that's the same rule that the City of San Antonio, along with Bexar County, adopted back in January of 2017. Which also stipulates a 5-minute rule for commercial vehicle idling within the city, or actually in Bexar County has the same idle requirements. So they're both utilizing 5 minutes based on, again, the EPA requirement. So
But I think,
I'm not sure.
well, what I think may be happening here is that there are changes in the technology that are creating a discrepancy. So what I'm thinking is that we add this and expand on it a little bit, and perhaps offer a permit that would be not cost anything, but it would allow for those who would be impacted by this, needing the extra idle time for either cool down or warm up, to have on file a permit with proper documentation that would substantiate that they actually need that. And then that would prevent them from being ticketed unnecessarily.
I can see a code enforcement officer stand there and
Right.
trying to look up what a manufacturer's requirement is for a
Exactly.
Peterbilt truck. Not just a
No, I
Mack
think that
truck
needs to
whatever.
be with the owner.
Right.
What, is there a date on that?
Yeah, effective June 17th, 2011, and I did not find a retraction on it or a change on it. And it's section 382.0191.
I can't
See,
think of any.
San Antonio's ordinance was passed in 2017. I would think they would have researched theirs as well, and it's what I find is what the EPA requirement is. And it's basically, it's not so much a noise factor, it's a pollution
Right.
factor.
And Bear County is woefully lacking in compliance.
I'd move to table that amendment until we do get more research on it, rather than trying to address it at this point. Well, we've got conflicting information.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
So I'll
so,
strike 3.
well, we're going to table it,
We'll table
so,
it
till when?
And do some more research.
Till when?
Next meeting. I mean,
Okay.
I'm gonna do some more digging myself, and I would invite you as well.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino to table item section 4B, the addition of 3. We're going to table this until our next meeting. Can I get a show of hands? That's unanimous. Okay.
Section 6. Does anybody have any changes that they wish to discuss on section 6?
I do.
Parking and storage prohibited.
Oh, wait. Where are you getting parking and storage?
I don't see any amendments.
There were no-
Oh, nothing in here, sorry.
No.
I
Thought we were
just
talking
asked
about
if
this.
the council in general has.
Yep, did anybody have any suggested changes they wanted to make? Then under section 7, permit, B, permit fees. We already have one, a permit shall be obtained annually and obtained per commercial vehicle unit for a fee of $1,500 per commercial vehicle unit. That's per unit. I added the permit fee for a person who owns a commercial vehicle for which the permit is applied and owns his or her own property prior to January. That's supposed to be January, or the signature of this amendment.
You need to read it as presented, and then we can
Okay.
amend it.
To January 1st, 2019 is $150 per commercial vehicle unit. A person who qualifies under this subsection who previously paid for a permit may apply to the city for a refund of the difference by providing proof of ownership of the commercial vehicle and property prior to January 1st, 2019. Any new commercial vehicle of the person will be subject to the permit fee as provided in subsection B-1.
So before we move on with that, the second part of this that says a person who qualifies under this subsection who previously paid for a permit, I'm going to recommend that all of that be struck from this because no permits were ever issued and no citations were ever issued, so it's a moot point.
And my actual intention was for that date to be, the property prior to date to be the date of the signature of the ordinance.
So what is the justification for separating? I'm confused as to the differentiation between $150 and $1,500. I just don't think that's fair to everybody.
Most of these individuals own their vehicles and under good faith. owned their vehicles prior to the inception of the city, prior to the inception of this ordinance. And to be in good faith, I don't think charging $1,500 per unit, which means the cab, the trailer, if that's the configuration, that's $3,000. I think that's rather excessive burden on our existing citizens.
So then wouldn't we just get rid of, scratch the number 1 then? Or
I'm,
just change
well, no,
I think there's some challenge with
what
that.
it's saying, Doug, is that some people only pay $150 and then everybody else pays $1,500, as referenced back up here. So I think what you have here is a special interest group that is not the way to go. I think I think 150 is way too low.
Exactly, I'd have to agree with that. I think we need to meet somewhere in between, and I've talked to
Because
some truck
1,500
drivers
is way
myself.
too high.
1,500 is way too high.
I've talked to some of the truck drivers, and I've asked for numbers, I've asked for suggestions. I personally did not get anything. Matter of fact, I suggested that they talk to some council members, which evidently they did, and that's fine. But yeah, to go from $1,500 to $150, what the whole purpose of this ordinance is also, okay, we talk about beautifying the city, we're talking about road improvements, we're talking about doing our master plan. The engineers spoke about coming up with a plan to redo streets. We're gonna build these streets to accommodate these trucks. We're gonna need some additional resources to do that. We're asking them to pitch in their share to run the big trucks on our roads. These roads are not built. They're not built for.
They're not built for them.
If you look at the highway they're building down on 1604, they probably got 6-8 inches of asphalt. You chip one of these streets out here, and you're lucky if you got an
3
inch and a
inches.
half, 2 inches. So I just couldn't go with the. I couldn't. I would. I'd maybe consider 500, 750, something like that, but not $150. It's
Because a permit, the state doesn't even charge.
500.
Yeah, that's as much as the state charges, is 500. And I don't think we ought to be charging more than what the state charges.
My recommendation. I would recommend that we a minimum of 500 per unit. Again, there's always the option of not bringing the heavy trucks into the city.
True.
There's always that option. It's just it's another option.
Yeah, but you're actually paying for 2 different things. You'd be paying 500 for a trailer and 500 for a...
Exactly, if you want to bring both units in.
If you want to bring
that's
both
what it
in.
would be.
Yeah.
I'm not a truck driver. I don't know what they make. I know they make pretty good money.
Well, I will tell you that
I think they make pretty good money.
my husband and I were in the business for over 20 years.
Point of order, ma'am. Point of order.
Point of order? This is for the council to talk, please. My husband and I were in the industry for over 20 years. So in my mind, $1,500 is not an unreasonable cost that if you paid to park your vehicle in a proper facility suited for that purpose, you may pay that or more. So $1,500 is not unreasonable. And I know there was some discussion earlier about other heavy vehicles here in the city, like trash trucks, like buses. But that's for the community as a whole. That benefits the entire community. This is set to benefit, and I've done a count, and this affects about 20 of the 1,300 plus properties that are out here. So I'm really not in favor of changing any of this until perhaps we have public comment on that. I think it's fair to everyone else that lives out here to be able to have input on this particular item. And the fact that we do have a master plan that's going to be coming up, I think this is a great topic perhaps in the public sessions to review.
And I think what everyone needs to realize is that by obtaining a permit we're allowing the overweight vehicles to come in to the city. Without a permit structure, the regulation that prohibits the heavy vehicles in the city would remain intact. So it's you know, we tackle it this way, or we tackle it the other way. It would be just an open, the signs are up. We just don't have a marshal in place, but the signs are up.
Right.
No vehicles over a certain, you know, 14,000 pounds. This is actually a pass, allowing you to come in and violate the ordinance. So
Right.
you're,
I disagree because it's speaking specifically to those that own property.
and again, in order to have the permit, and it's a little further on, you must be a property owner.
Right.
So, and sure, we have a lot of rental individuals that are also bringing trucks into the city. And we're not the only city in Texas
No.
to do this. I mean, I got a list here, you know, it's a mile long. I read you some. It says San Antonio regulates commercial vehicles, Mesquite, Fort Worth, Houston,
Oh, I
Austin,
understand that.
Buda,
Mhm.
Manor,
I do
Burleson,
understand.
Prosper,
Right.
Seabrook, Frisco.
I
They all
do.
regulate commercial vehicles. We're not the only ones that are trying to do this.
There are also a lot, though, that do define it differently. And since the city came along in 2014, I think we do need to have to look at the fact that these people were here. They are the citizens of the city. They do own property. Renters can easily pack up and move. These are citizens of the city. I think the $1,500 is an exorbitant fee, an undue burden for the citizens that we're speaking of. Now, having said that, however, I am fine with either tabling this, or I like the idea of public comment. I also was wondering, we have our engineers that are going to be doing a evaluation of our roads, and they might also be able to shed some light, because all the road studies I've looked at, the majority are speaking of vehicles over 28,000 pounds. A lot of our owners come in empty. They don't weigh that much.
But when you have, it's the length that is the condition as well, because it's not just the weight.
Well, it's
it
also
is-
the axles, too.
It's the, well, that's true, but it's the length, and when they're making a turn,
Yes.
they're eating up the
Yes.
apex.
On the edge.
They're
yes.
swinging into oncoming traffic, which is a hazard.
And
so
those
I'm-
are martial issues. And
Exactly.
yes, I agree with you on
Okay.
that. I do agree.
So I'm okay with, I mean, I'm thinking that this is probably something that we're not gonna resolve today. I think there's hopefully some additional input from other citizens on this as well.
And I think you'll have that opportunity during the public sessions.
Of the master plan.
For the master plan, that you hear from all counties, not just the folks who own these rigs, but the folks that don't.
Right.
Right.
Okay, so just so we know, if we pull that portion out, if we just table that for another date, we go through and we finish whatever, if we're going to continue with amending this ordinance, or we leave it as written, when we do get a marshal on board, that he will be enforcing this ordinance as written originally if we don't amend it today.
If we don't amend it today. So can the amendment be that we,
Then we don't need to put in the red part, we can just change the permit amount.
Right, I mean, that's what I'm saying, if you want to just amend the permit amount, I'll entertain $500. I would entertain 500, I wouldn't entertain 150. I would go as low as 500, but I just can't see doing $150.
what about waiting for public comment?
Again.
How
if-
can we go about doing that?
Again, if you want
In
to.
the meantime.
Well, you can table the amendment, the ordinance is passed.
But
The original ordinance has passed.
The danger is that they'll be enforcing the $1,500
Exactly.
if we
Right.
don't do something
Right.
Exactly.
today.
There's no alternative to that.
No, ma'am.
Unless you would either have to amend the fee today or
Right.
strike the entire section until you receive public comment. and there would be no permit or fee if it's amended.
But they would be in violation if they come into the city, if they're over the weight that's posted at the city limits.
At the city limits.
But if you don't do anything, that $1,500 fee is still in place, and that seems to be the concern.
All right, so my thinking based on what I've heard here is that the proposed amendment, item B2, not be addressed.
Right.
And that the fee in item B1 be amended?
To 500.
Is that what I'm hearing?
500, yes.
But without item B2, then I think it's just item B. There's no subsection 1.
Right.
So
Well,
just-
we'll let you work
Okay,
that
I'll let
magic.
you-
So I move that we amend the ordinance to read under permit fees. Item 1, that the permit shall be obtained annually and obtained per commercial vehicle unit for a fee of $500 per commercial vehicle unit.
Per unit, okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to amend 7B to amend the amount of the permit fee from $1,500 to $500 per commercial unit. Do we have a second on that?
I second it.
Okay, Alderman Walker seconds. Can I get a show of hands in favor? That's unanimous, okay. Okay, and then their next one,
The next one is, where are we?
5G.
7,
No, 5,
7, G.
G, 5. Section 7.
Section 7, G.
What is this 5 right here?
That's, it's the.
Oh,
I know it always.
that doesn't look right. It goes way over here. Okay,
That's-
sorry, G.
Simply to qualify for a permit from the city, the owner or operator of the commercial vehicle must own the property the vehicle will reside at.
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Alderman Tremblay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Alderman Walker, show of hands, please, in favor. That is unanimous. Okay,
This is an iffy one. H, to qualify for a permit, the commercial vehicle must have the appropriate silencer kits for truck blowers installed if available for the commercial vehicle. The reason that is there is I was informed from several truck owners that there are such thing as a silencer kit that applies to certain vehicles, certain commercial vehicles. It prolongs the life, but it also helps cut down a little bit on the noise. I don't know of any way that we could prove that they have a silencer or not. We'd have to take them at their word.
Yeah, I don't know.
So this would actually address the idling, probably?
The noise.
The noise.
Noise from
The noise.
idling?
Noise.
Or just
Just
noise
noise.
while it's driving, while it's running, or?
Noise while, well, it's the idling is what that was considered.
My challenge with that is that we don't have the personnel to do that.
Verify if
Yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
or not.
It would just be on their honor. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm fine with removing that.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't
Move
see any
strike.
reason. Okay. So Alderman Tremblay has made a motion of move to strike this item, and Alderman Rapino has seconded. Can I get a show of hands? That is unanimous. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, prior to obtaining or renewing a permit, a commercial vehicle that weighs more than 10,000 pounds must undergo annual Level 1 North American Standard Department of Transportation inspection and provide proof thereof. I
Okay.
believe this is part of their regular inspection, and it is required by law that they have this done.
It's no different than your car having to be inspected.
This is part of their regular
No,
truck inspection.
I understand that, but
Yes.
it's an annual inspection. It's no different, it's a different level of inspection, but it's no different than your car. We already have an ordinance in place that says that all vehicles have to be properly licensed and registered. So I think that's kind of a
The point was a
duplicate.
safety issue.
And the other thing is, it's referencing 10,000 pounds. That conflicts with our 14,000 that we already have in place in this ordinance, and for consistency, it just made sense to change it
Okay.
to
The
14.
Department of Transportation's rule is 10,000 pounds.
Okay.
That's why I left it at 10,000.
Again, I don't know that this is relevant to the discussion because.
Yeah, I think the requirement for the permit shows that you're currently licensed and you have your permits, and that'll all be checked by the city administrator when
The
they apply for
registration will be
permit.
checked.
Yes.
That's all part of
So
the
I
permit
think it,
application.
Move to strike that one as well.
Okay, so we have Alderman Tremblay moves to strike, Alderman Rapino seconds. May I get a show of hands? And that is unanimous.
And section 10, I just believe is a consistent legal aspect.
It is.
Repeal
It just
of
repeals.
conflicting ordinances, all city ordinances or parts of ordinances inconsistent or in conflict with, to the extent of such inconsistency or conflict are hereby repealed.
Yeah,
And I make a motion to accept that.
okay.
I would,
So Alderman Walker's made a motion to accept section 10. Can I get a second?
second.
Okay, Alderman Tremblay seconds. Show of hands? That's unanimous. And so the last item is to approve all of these changes to the ordinance as amended.
What about
We have
the
Oh, wait, wait,
effective
wait. Wait. Yeah, you're right, the date. Sorry.
I move to have the effective date as of this date.
Well, it
rather
needs to
than
be
allow us.
published.
Right, after publication, once it's
Upon publication.
Upon publication.
Right.
So we don't even have to put a date in here. So we're going to strike that. Okay, so Alderman Tremblay has, well, I'll let you make the motion. I'm not going to put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I move to approve the amending ordinance number 2019-124 as discussed with the amendments.
Okay. So Alderman Tremblay has made a motion to approve, we don't have the new ordinance yet, amending ordinance 2019-124 as amended.
Second.
And Alderman Rapino seconds. May I get a show of hands in favor? And we are unanimous, okay? Okay. Okay, we have one last item under the administration piece here. Item 8E, discussion or possible action on approving the investment of the city's reserve funds. I put this on here for Alderman Rapino as our public investment officer. And the intent with that is to take our reserve funds that we have set aside, which, Catherine, do I have that number?
$125,750.
There you go. So we have that set aside in reserve funds, and we want to put it in the investment pool, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
And what is the interest rate on that? I see the reports come in.
2.49, the last time I checked, it changes daily, and, but it's been running around that.
Okay. And just to kind of reiterate the whole purpose of this, remember the FDIC only insures up to $250,000. If you look at our budget, we have significantly more than that. So we have some money that's at risk, potentially. But by moving some of that into this investment pool, not only will it earn money for us, but it will alleviate the risk. So that was the discussion I had with Alderman Rapino, was to just take the reserve funding that we really don't have an intention to spend on, and plus it's liquid. So we can very quickly and easily get to that.
Get it back the next day.
The next day.
Place your call by 4, you'll have it in the bank, when the bank opens.
Okay.
They're quick.
So can I get a motion on that one?
I move that we accept resolution 2019-101, which will allow us to invest not to exceed $125,750 with the Texas Investment Pool.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to invest $125,750 in the Texas Investment Pool as per Resolution 2019-101.
I second.
And Alderman Walker seconds. And can,
125,750.
125750, yes. May I get a show of hands of those in favor? That is unanimous, okay. Okay, in the interest of, well, I promise, this will be a short one. Item number 9, Public Works, discuss and or possible action on additional streetlights. I know we just approved 6 additional lights that the order has been placed. We haven't been scheduled yet, but I did notice as I was driving around the city, particularly over at the Mathis Road, Storm Oaks, Star Oaks area, that intersection is not lit up, and how that intersection was missed on a street light, I'm not sure. So there are 3, remember, as you're going down Star Oaks, this side is the city and this side is not. So we have 3 streets on the left side, and I would propose that we do one at the intersection and then the 3 street intersections. So that would be an additional 4 lights. And then we've talked with CPS. Yes, ma'am.
Throughout the city last year, Alderman Fillinger also addressed the end of every cul-de-sac.
That was-
I don't know if there's cul-de-sacs.
That was done.
Those were done, okay.
Yes, in fact, on those streets, those cul-de-sacs are done, but not the intersections. So it's very dark when, well, Lynette knows, she lives down there. It's very dark. I pass it, if I go down there at night, I miss it every time. So the proposal is to authorize 4 more streetlights for that area. And we did ask CPS when we got the confirmation they received our order, if they could give us till Friday before they put that order in, just in case we need to add these additional lights.
Yeah, make a motion. I'll move to approve 4 additional streetlights.
I second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to approve 4 additional streetlights. They'll be specifically for the Star Oaks area. And we have a second by Alderman Rapino. Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? That's unanimous, okay. And now we're going to get on to the really fun stuff here. Okay, item 10A, under Animal Control. Discuss and or possible action on amending Ordinance 2019. Before we go there, can I introduce from our advisory committee and let them speak? Is that acceptable? Just in general, not on a particular topic?
Well, it's not on the agenda, so.
Well, and the reason is, all the items, except for, all the ones that I have on here came as recommendations from the committee. So since the committee made the recommendations, I was hoping they could engage in the conversation as we're going through this.
Not agendized.
Pardon?
The committee is not agendized.
Okay.
You may
Okay.
have to act as their spokesperson.
Wasn't Alderman Thomasino, didn't he chair the meeting?
He did.
He should be able to address those.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. So 10A, discuss and or possible action on amending Ordinance 2019-131 to establish fines and fees related to animal control picking up loose animals that are subsequently returned to the owner or placed for adoption. And so our animal control ordinance as it's written today allows us to recoup fees, but that is because we don't have any fees established. All that we can recoup is what we spend. So if we pick up a dog, we take it to the vet, we have the vet bill, we boarded it for 3 days, and then we euthanized it because it was sick or whatever the case may be, or the owner comes forward and says, hey, that's my dog. All that we can do is they have to pay us, they have to reimburse us what we spent. What I'm proposing is that we have a fee on top of that, basically a
Handling fee.
handling fee, a pickup charge, whatever you want to call, because our animal control guy has to go out, sometimes set a trap, sometimes wrangle it, whatever it takes to get the dog picked up. Find a place to hold it until he can get an appointment with the vet, then he's got to go load it up, take it to the vet. That's time. That's taking time away from things that need to be happening here in the city, and especially if that animal is reclaimed by its owner, there should be some kind of fee that's associated with that. Capture fee, whatever you want to call it. So my idea is to impose a number on that, and even if the adoption, let's say that that we have an animal and it's suitable for adoption, what would that fee be? So for the pickup, I was thinking $65 as a pickup charge. So in addition to what other fees would be incurred for the care of that animal, an additional $65 would be added to that.
So this is when someone wants to reclaim their animal?
Yes.
Most shelters do that.
I understand.
The city's taking on the burden of irresponsible pet ownership. It's putting a severe strain on our
I understand.
one gentleman.
Animal control begins with the ownership of the
It's a
animal.
beast, for sure.
Well, would it be would we call it a fine? Would it just be a fee, not a fine, right?
Well, we can call it a fee. I put on here fee or fine, whichever one.
Call it a capture fee. If you're picking up the animal, it's a capture fee. So we had to
believe
send
ACS
we had to send our guy out there to whether he put a trap or he took the time to go and capture the animal. It took time away from our animal control officers' normal duty to address that issue.
Okay. Can I ask Lynette a question real quick? Because I know she has a lot of familiarity with this. Do you know what a standard fee is, or a usual fee that you've seen with some other cities or organizations?
Anywhere from 50 to 100.
From 50 to 100. So
I would think, and you're going to have some repeat offenders.
You are.
So,
So maybe you scale it.
50 for the first time, and if the animal's captured a second time, it's $100.
Okay.
So it would be $50 for the first offense.
For the first.
And if it's a repeat offense, it would be $100.
And there is no third.
The third, we keep the animal.
Okay. Okay.
Prior to any motion.
Well, that's not in the. That's not in here.
We'll get it done.
No, because I don't like this. Okay.
So I would move that we approve a capture fee for a first offense at $50, set a second offense at $100, and third offense, the owner would be required to surrender the animal to the city.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to establish a capture fee, first offense of $50, second offense of $100, and a third offense would result in surrender of the animal. And do we have a second?
I'll second.
Alderman Rapino seconds. May I get a show of hands of those in favor? That one's unanimous. While we're on this particular topic, I'm going to go ahead and bring up where was it? Right here. Item G. So discuss and possible action on amending ordinance 2019-131, section 8A5. This was brought by Alderman Thomasini and Alderman Tremblay.
Well, the reason I wanted to get this back on the agenda is because I think it's something that the whole council needs to discuss and consider. The way the ordinance is written now, we have, the city can dispose of an animal in a humane way after 3 days. But there's nothing that says how the maximum amount of days we can keep it. And we're keeping a lot of dogs for several weeks, or some dogs for about, several weeks before we do something with them. And that's, of course, it's costing us money to do that. It costs anywhere from $15.50 to $35 a day, depending on the size of the dog, is what it's costing us. And I'm just asking the council to consider putting a maximum amount of time that will keep an animal in a shelter so that we don't have to keep paying for those boarding fees.
And what would you suggest that number be?
Well, if we're going to make a hard and fast day, or days, I would say 7 business days. But that's my recommendation.
So I have a concern with that, and I know that we discussed this at the last advisory committee. And I do want to show you, this is all of the animals that have been addressed by our animal control officer, and including 20 cats down here. There's close to 60 animals represented up here. And there's only the ones with the red X here, there's 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the only ones that have had to be put down. And we have been very good on the money that has been spent. I know Bexar County would be incredibly happy to have these results at this price. And this is strictly working today with the limitations that we have, which is no facility to hold them, utilizing Oak Hills and Deason for vet services and boarding, because we don't have a place to board animals here. And the foster program. Our animal advisory committee has been tremendous to work with. I do know that this program is working. In the very short amount of time that we've been doing this is working. Are we going to have a situation from time to time where an animal is hard to place? We are. We have one now. But to put down a healthy animal, I think, is contrary to what we're doing here. So what I'm hearing Alderman Tomasini say is 7 days, you're done. Do something in 7 days. And the challenge is we don't have the things we need. I'm not saying we can't get there. And from what I understand, every organization has a date or has a time limit. But to put that in place today, when we have not yet done the things we need a facility, we need more volunteers, we need more fosters. There's things that we need that we can help get to that, but today's not the day.
And I need to read, this is what the Animal Advisory Committee is recommending, and I need to read this. They're requesting that we have additional time to establish a city foster care and adoption program before amending the ordinance and imposing a maximum number of days an animal will be impounded in a city facility, shelter, or contract facility shelter. They're also recommending the following: the establishment of the city foster care and adoption program. The maximum number of days an animal be impounded in the city facility, animal shelter, and contract animal shelter will be 7 business days. If an animal is not placed in foster care or adopted after 7 days, the animal will be disposed of in a humane and proper method. They're requesting that the city hire a part-time employee as an advocate for impoundment of animals, and the employee will be responsible for the placement of the animals in foster care and adoption homes.
I think that sounds reasonable. I mean, we are making progress. It's slow, it's difficult. It's moving, we're making progress, things are happening. But we need more time before we put this 7 days in place.
Well, I can agree with that. If we're going to fast track the spay and neuter program, the what is it, the SNAP, where you.
TNR.
TNR for the cats, also the microchipping and licensing of animals, where we get owners to be more responsible for their animals, because, yeah, these numbers are, they're impressive, but you can drive down the street and see.
There's hundreds
20
still.
loose animals.
Yeah.
People are not responsible for their animals.
Well, and we will address those items in item J. So right now, we're just talking about item G, where Alderman Thomasini is proposing putting in place a 7 business day deadline.
I just don't,
I don't agree
I mean-
with, sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to hear what Alderman Thomasini had. He asked me to co-sponsor this item and put on the agenda, and he told me he had some stuff coming that the advisory committee had recommended. I think we also need to look at what they're recommending as well. I don't want to be a city that picks up animals and euthanizes no more than you do. But we have to look at it realistically as well. There are just so many, and if we can't address it one way, we have to address it another way. It's the only way we're going to tackle it. But I think, like I say, the spay neuter, the licensing, where you can hold owners responsible. If you pick up an animal that's got a tag, a microchip, you can find out who the owner is. You know, sure, you impound the animal, you capture it, you notify the owner, and they're one day they don't want the animal, they're still going to get fined because we had to pick it up. So it's either way, we have to address the situation. I'm for giving it time for implementation of some other controls that we can implement, and I see them there, and we need to discuss those. So I would ask that we table the holding.
That's up to y'all.
The holding period for now. It stipulates 3 days, but I think it's not hard and concrete that after 3 days we euthanize an animal.
Correct.
It's a minimum of 3 days.
It's a minimum hold, yes.
So that's what I would.
So you'd make a recommendation that we table this one?
I move that we table that item until we can, give us a few months to try and get these other programs implemented. I'm a big advocate of pet owner responsibility.
Absolutely.
As it relates to animal control.
Right. Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Tremblay to table item G. And would that be indefinite?
Yes.
Okay.
I will second that.
And Alderman Rapino will second that. And may I get a show of hands of those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the previous page. Let's look at item B.
You didn't finish A, actually.
I didn't finish A.
We discussed unless I missed it, we discussed the returning to owners, but we never set up a fee schedule or a fee schedule for, suitable for adoption. I didn't hear a motion regarding that, which is listed as,
Well, it says return to owner or placed for adoption.
or placed for adoption.
So you're just gonna charge them a
So if someone wants to adopt an animal, they will pay the same fees that an owner would pay for us to release the animal.
Well, the only problem with that is the second offense and the third offense.
Right.
So
So it would only be the
start
$50.
over.
It would only be the
It would only be the
$50.
$50. That was my point.
Right.
The adoption fee?
Yeah, we're not fining the animal, we're fining the owner.
Exactly.
I didn't hear that in the, move to accept that section.
So we probably do need to revisit A and somebody make a motion relative to the adoption fee. Is that correct?
Yeah, because the other ones were capture fees.
They were capture
Right.
fees.
Right.
Okay.
Mayor Ball, will this be, just for clarification, a person adopting an animal will only pay $50? Or?
Well, we haven't decided that
They
yet.
would pay any fees incurred by the city in addition to the. capture
No, I don't think we can do that.
No?
No.
Nobody's gonna want to adopt a
They're not
dog.
going to pay $600 to adopt a dog. It's not going to happen.
But asking them
Golden
to pay a
retriever.
portion.
You need paper.
We should have them pay a fee to adopt the animal.
I make a motion to charge $50 adoption fee.
Some places do.
Okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to set up a $50 adoption fee.
I second that.
And Alderman Walker seconds. And may I get a show of hands of those in favor? That's approved. Okay.
Recoup some of that money.
Exactly.
Do we need to address a surrender fee?
You've already got them the first two. By the time they got to the third one, they've already paid 50 and 100. So, of course, any of these fines and these fees, they go to offset what we're doing, the
We're talking
budget
about-
that we have.
On those fees, those are capture fees.
Those were capture fees,
Right.
yes.
And if we have a citizen who just wants to bring us their animal.
We don't do voluntary
We're not-
surrenders.
that's what- so
We
we're
are
not
not
gonna do
doing
surrenders.
voluntary. We have enough roaming the streets to keep us busy for a while. We may address that in the future, but not now. Okay, item B. Discuss and or possible action on the purchase of an animal control facility. And so we have here, and Chris, I may need to ask you a couple of questions on this.
Where is he?
He's hiding over there.
He's hiding.
So, the Animal Control Advisory Committee determined that probably we do not want to have a facility that will hold any more than 10 animals. That is the limit on what we think we can address as a facility, because you have to feed them, you have to walk them, you have to bathe them. There's a lot that goes into taking care of them, and we're going to rely on volunteers, and if we hire somebody part-time, we could maybe give them some of that duty as well. Chris, of course, would have to also lead that charge. So Chris has gone out and done some research and come up with a prefab solution. And this is a 12-foot by 32-foot commercial 8-run kennel. And there is a lot of stuff in here. I wish we had some pictures to share. Do you have a picture of it anywhere? Because it really is impressive, and it is delivered, ready to go. There is no setup or there's probably some minimal setup, making sure it's level. But as far as it's a fully contained unit with the exception of a septic system, and we'll talk about that separately here. It has 4x4 pressure treated posts in the runs, 2x4 pressure treated floor joists, 16-inch on center, 5/8 inch, I'm not sure what LP smart floor with polyurea coating on interior floor, 2x4 wall studs, 16-inch on center. Our choice of siding, painted smart side, stained pine board, and batten or stained pine tongue and groove. 24 by 36 double pane windows and screens, insulated fiberglass slab door with a keyed latch, R13 fiberglass insulated walls and ceiling in the interior, R7 spray foam insulated floor in the interior. Interior dog box partitions and gates are 11.5 gauge chain link. We have exterior dog runs with chain link partitions and an entry gate. And Chris, if I'm not mistaken, these have a divider so that we could separate, we could keep the dog in one end while we're cleaning or whatever on one end.
You mean the guillotine doors?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This also includes a 12,000 BTU split unit heat AC that would cover 400 square feet. It includes a tub sink. There's the 8 guillotine dog doors, yes. And then there's a divider panel, and that is what, if I'm not mistaken, that's the one that Dr. Kiefer was talking about for quarantine where we have to separate them. Okay, so it includes the divider panel. It has a 100 amp electrical package with a breaker box, includes light switch, receptacle, and breaker box. Requires connection to the customer's electric service by an electrician. It has a continuous stainless floor drain, includes a drain pipe. So that alleviates the need for us to have sealed concrete and grooving out the concrete slabs that we have to accommodate a drain. This is totally self-contained. Now, with all of the add-ins on here, it would be $45,420. And it would take, what did I say, 7 to 9 weeks, I think is what I read. Approximately 7 to 9 weeks. And again, it shows up ready to go.
Does it need to go onto a concrete slab?
No, it does not.
For comparison's sake, it's like a house that's on pyramid.
Did you find pictures? Oh.
This one's a 14 by 32. I couldn't find right now, because this,
Well, I want the council members to see it, but I also want the people that are sitting out there to be able to see it as well. You see it?
yeah, it's horizon structure, so.
Yeah.
um,
There you go. That's much better.
So that's why it wouldn't have to sit on a concrete slab,
Exactly.
because,
The way it's structured, yeah. Okay, and would you
I
show
shall.
those who are here?
How much is it?
This would come out of what line item if it was voted through?
Well, we may have to amend the budget, 45,420.
Well, we'll have to actually amend it for more than that, because I'm sure.
Oh, there's more, no, there's more. I'm just saying, the amended, we would have to do a budget amendment to do
Yeah,
this.
but you're gonna have electricity.
I know, Doug, I just said that. We have other things that we need to do.
And there might be a parking lot, there may be a driveway, there'll be lighting.
We know all about that, yes. We're prepared to do that. I'm
but
just
we
saying.
don't- I know, the only thing I'm concerned about is we don't know the total of what it's gonna be. We know what the total for the actual structure. We have no idea what else there's gonna be. That's a
What we'll
concern.
do is, if you guys end up voting to purchase this, then we come back to you for the additional charges. One, septic.
Exactly.
Two, the electrician tie-in.
The
parking
water,
spaces,
exactly.
Et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
But initially, you gotta make a decision on whether or not we're gonna buy this.
exactly.
Well, why can't we get the cost of everything?
Because we don't.
What's the difference?
Exactly, what's the difference?
Because I'd like to know the full amount ahead of time.
Well,
no,
okay,
here-
it's gonna
here,
cost
this is
us
the
a lot
reason.
of money. I'm telling you right now, it's gonna cost us a lot of money.
Here's the reason. If it was my home and I was purchasing a large shed of that size, I would want to know not only what the shed and the delivery fees were, I would want to know what any accessory costs were going to be for setting up and using that shed appropriately. So I agree with Mr. Tomasini. I see an importance in understanding that before we actually tell these people that we're purchasing it.
I can get those estimates for you by the next meeting.
Well, I have an estimate on the septic, and it would be a separate septic system specifically for the animal facility, $4,580. So the other items needed would be electric and water, and we've already engaged with SAWS and CPS on what it's going to take. I do know that the impact fee from SAWS is $4,200. That's,
I know.
we have no control over that.
And we need water on the facility.
We have to have water on the property, so that is for the SAWS impact fee, and that's not counting the actual plumbing that we will need. And so we know the septic is $4,580. Okay, and then we're gonna need electric. Don't know what that's gonna cost, and we can't get you a firm number on any of those things because we don't know where we're gonna place it. We don't know what other limitations there are, but we do know that we're gonna have to spend the money on those things. So what other things do you think we would need to consider?
Well, I don't know, there may be a driveway that we might need, so we'll be going in and out of there, I don't know.
There is a driveway.
I don't know if that, yeah, but we'll have the public going in and out of there probably, so we might need. Yeah, parking,
Well,
I
that
just-
falls under streets, and we have money on the budget,
well,
on the
like I
budget
said,
for
I
streets.
I'm just reluctant to vote for this until we know what it will cost, what everything will cost.
And where the line items are gonna come from. That would be my concern. Where is it gonna come
One
from
thing,
with the budget?
I just want to inject something for everybody to think about. This is June, July's next month. We got to think about spending some money.
We have to
before
spend
the end of
money
the year.
before the end of the year.
And it's not that, I don't think spending money on this is spending it foolishly. I think it's something that's needed. You may look at it as putting the cart before the horse, but in this sense, we kind of need to look at it that way. The getting the electricity and the water it's going to be pricey. When I got here 20 years ago, I paid $900 for a water impact fee. Look what it is today. It's outrageous. I don't think getting electricity there is going to be that expensive.
The water's probably gonna be.
The water is, because you have to only work with certain folks who can put that saddle thing on there to get your water, and they have a list of just a few plumbers that do it. But yeah, I can see that, why that cost is so high. The electricity, I don't see with getting electricity there. I don't think it's going to cost us any more than $1,000.
Well, I'm not saying that we don't need it, I just saying I think, and if we're gonna be meeting every 2 weeks, I think we can do this.
Okay,
before
but
June.
we just
I mean,
talked about
before-
this, they need 9 weeks. That's over 2 months.
Yeah.
Okay? Here's the reality we're faced with, Alderman Thomasini. The end of the fiscal year is coming. We have a lot of money, we've been trying to get projects done. We have a lot of money sitting in the bank in the budget that we have not spent yet for the projects that we need. Think about what that means next year. If we roll over $500,000, which we're set to do, the tax rate for the city is going to drop to the point that it's not going to be sustainable. So you can't, the legislature just passed the 3.5% cap. So you have to think in terms of, yes, we've recognized we need to do something. Here is a solution. In my mind, it's a reasonable solution. I bet we can get this done for, let's see, 45, 50. I'm thinking 75,000.
Yeah.
In total. And we can't keep waiting because we're going to run out of time. This right here is 9 weeks already. That's 2 months. The impact fee from SAWS, that's going to happen. It doesn't matter where we go. That is what it is.
I think they just voted to increase. I think it just went up here.
I know.
This is brand new. It wasn't that 2 months ago.
Right.
It just went up. But yeah, I agree with the mayor. We have to look at the money we have in our budget right now, and if we don't do something, we don't act quickly, we're going to be in trouble come budget time.
Yes.
We're going to have too much money in our coffers, and we won't be able to set a sustainable tax rate.
I agree.
And we've been receiving these tax monies from the taxpayers, and the intent is to do something with that tax money. So that's what we're proposing to do here.
Animal control is one of the top issues.
It is.
Concerns that people had besides law enforcement. We have to kind of get the ball rolling. I mean, and I'd have to say I don't know where this is going yet myself. We have to get to the property, get on the property, and map out exactly where we're going to put this thing, and then we can get into deciding where the septic tank goes. Now, I wish we could have gotten rid of those the water storage tanks that are there. They're still there, so that's going to be one
Right.
obstacle. But
Well, if we decide to do it on that end, I mean, there's almost 2 acres there. There's plenty of room to figure out where what the best solution is.
I think we need to kind of move this thing forward. Yeah, we're gonna meet every 2 weeks. In 2 weeks from now, we could have this thing going and have all the costs in place as far as what the electricity and the water is gonna cost. Just my 2 cents.
So my thought is this. Get to a calculator somewhere on here. We only, if we decide to go with this route, we have to do, is it 50% down, Chris? Or, okay, so you're looking at 20, about 23,000 initially.
And we might want to ask them if we can get a discount if we prepay the whole thing.
Well, now there's that as well. So between, we're looking at 45,420 for the facility, 45,80 for the septic. And we honestly don't have to approve the septic now, but because we're 9 weeks out on this.
And there's a stipulation in here that there's an additional 3% added if we use a credit card, which, I mean, the only other thing would be to send.
Write a check.
Check.
Yeah.
Or certified check. Or
Right.
cashier's check.
Right.
But that, just keep that in mind if we do use a credit card, it's 3% more.
So I'm thinking if we just approve the Horizon Structures portion of this, then we have time to nail down all the others that go along with, they're going to support this. We can bring it back in 2 weeks, and then we should have a better idea by then. Oh, and this price does include delivery and placement.
Yeah.
And the AC unit, and the tub sink.
It includes
It includes all that. Yeah.
I'll make a motion to purchase the Horizon structure for the kennels.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to purchase from Horizon Structures based on the estimate they provided, the 8 kennels. Do I have a second on that? Alderman Tremblay has seconded. Is there any other discussion on that? Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? We have 3 in favor, opposed. Okay, and 1 opposed. And the motion carries. Okay, item 10C. Discuss and or possible action on the cost of design, permit, and installation of a septic tank on the former Sauce property for animal control purposes. Again, I have a quote here for $4,580. I personally would like to get at least one more, if not. There is one more?
It just came in today.
Oh, right here. Well, I had this one. You don't. So we do have 2. So one for $4,580 and one for $5,870.
Do we know the size of the tank that affordable?
Well, this one, okay, so the lesser one, it does not say what.
It said, I think that it would be sufficient for like a 3-bedroom house.
That should be 1,000. Yeah.
Well, this one did
Yeah, I saw
specify
that.
1,000. They're talking about lateral lines and tanks, permit fees and engineering fees are included in the preliminary bid, which is good. And it says, note the bid could be lower if less lateral line is needed. This can be discussed with the engineer. This one here includes permit and engineering for design and install new septic tank. I think I'd like to find out the specs on that tank. So I'm going to suggest that we table this one till the next meeting, and let's make sure that we have apples to apples on this one. But it's nice to know what a general cost may be on this. Would somebody, can I table it, or do they have to make the motion?
Do we have to make the motion?
Oh, you put it.
Or table it?
I'll let you table it.
I make a motion that we table, what section is it?
It's 9C.
Section 9C on ordinance 2019.
No, you just need to say 10C.
Okay,
Yeah, and table till when?
table until next meeting.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Walker to table item 10C until our next meeting. Can I get a second? Okay, Alderman Rapino seconds. Can I get a show of hands? That is unanimous. Okay, item 10D. Let me see if there's something a little shorter we can get through here. Let's go to 10E first. Oh, I don't think we can do that. We have to do D first. So item D is discussion or possible action on creating a trap neuter release program for cats. So if there may be a few of you here who remember back in 2014 or 15, we had the San Antonio Feral Cat Coalition come out and present to council. Long time ago. The presentation that they did was pretty eye-opening as it relates to the unfettered growth of a cat colony and how quickly it happens. And the only way that you get that under control, whether that be dogs or cats, is the spay-neuter program. This is a subset of spay-neuter in that it is addressing feral cats specifically. So these are cats that live outdoors. They're probably not people friendly. You're not going to be able to walk up and pet them. They're not that kind of cat. And the intent of the TNR program is to have volunteers who would set traps. They would capture that animal. We don't have to make an appointment to have it fixed. And through Brooks, the pricing for spay and neuter is really affordable. And you take those animals and then you re-release them in the same area in which they came from. And what happens is those cats will not reproduce. And they patrol and control that territory. They have a very specific territory. One of the comments I've heard from some people is, well, I want you to come get the cats, but I don't want you to bring them back. And I can tell you from the TNR perspective, that doesn't work because you create a vacuum and just a different set of cats are going to move in. So what you want to do is control the colony. You don't want them to reproduce. They will fend for themselves for the most part, taking care of rodents and snakes and those type of things, and they become less of a nuisance. So this is, I know of 3 places, I'm sure there's more, but I know 3 specific locations where residents have 30 plus cats and they're asking for help. How do I get this under control? This is the only way we're going to get it. I'm going to back up. That is not the only way we're going to get it under control. It's the more humane way to get it under control. And like I said, if you remove all the cats, just different cats are going to move in. So it's an ongoing program that needs to be addressed. And to be honest, we actually picked up a cat. Somebody trapped it. It was a feral cat. And we took it into, I think that one was at Oak Hills, right? And got it spayed, and it happened to be pregnant. They terminated the pregnancy. They spayed it. We kept it for a couple days, and we released it in the area that it was picked up from. So that's one out of 873, I think. There's a lot.
So would this program alleviate some of the burden of housing?
We're not going to house feral cats.
So we pick up feral cats, they're not going into the animal control facility.
No.
So that's
they're in a trap, and feral cats have to remain in the trap. That's one of the programs because they're you don't know how they're gonna react. They're not friendly. They're not the warm fuzzy little kitties that you think, when you think of cats. These are different.
You won't pet it but once.
They even put them to sleep in the cage.
So, the plan is to implement a TNR program here in the city. Now, when they spay or neuter them, they tip their ear, and that is a universal sign that that animal has been fixed.
Do they
So
vaccinate?
they do. They have to. The spay and neuter clinics. Any animal that goes in there, if it does not have a current rabies vaccination, it gets one.
So all feral animals would be.
All feral animals get it too.
What is the cost per animal?
I don't have the Brooks thing here. I want to say it was, Catherine, do you have the pricing from Brooks? I'm sorry? 20? Well, the feral, but at Brooks. So $20 for, now, dogs, it was a little bit different, but we're not talking about dogs. But for the feral cats, it's $20.
I remember when we did get that briefing on the feral cats, there was, I recall something about permitting individuals who.
It's not permitting, it's a fee where you, Lynette, what is the colony? You manage the colony, you register the colonies, is that what it is? Yeah.
In San Antonio, that you have to have a colony feeder permit, so you are allowed to feed the cats wherever.
Yeah.
Wherever the colony is, you just register the address. If that's something we want to have here, so we can keep track, to establish, we can come up with a permit fee or something like that.
And in something like that, I don't know that I want to have a dollar-based permit more so, other than a permit that, so we know who they are. You know what I'm saying? Not do it as a revenue type thing, but as a, just being able to know who the registered, exactly. Yeah.
So I think Chris mentioned to me that the 25 cats that came into the facility or came into the city, that Chris made a comment that there were larger colonies out there.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
That, so what, and they're not managed.
These are
at
not
this
feral.
point,
These
right?
were not feral.
Right,
This was
yeah.
different.
But, yeah, I think what you're saying is that there are some feral.
There are some, yes. And if you're out at night and you kind of look around, you'll see them. I have one that has set up a perimeter around my property. I have my own cats, but I see him. He makes his little tour around the property line. And I like to get him caught. And I don't mind him hanging around, but I don't want him making more.
So if we identify a resident, an individual who has a colony, would it not be their responsibility to do this?
I'll let Lynette answer that question if you don't mind, because she's very familiar with the program.
If the if the resident is feeding them, it could be deemed their responsibility. But per se, most residents, it's not their choice that the cats have taken root where they are. That's why establishing this program and having volunteers trap and help the residents in the community fix the cats that have taken root in their residence, that'll help. But as far as making it their responsibility, I mean, it's gonna be hard to say. You can't make them claim that cat.
Right.
Yeah, well, and my concern is that the city will in turn be the city's responsibility to manage these colonies.
Well, and I think as part of the animal control program, that's just another aspect of it.
Right, and that's why I asked if you can identify that a individual is actually the host for that community.
By choice or not.
By choice or not, would it not be their responsibility to?
I think what's happening, and I think that's ideal. I think that is an ideal, and my thought was that we approach them with that because they're already feeding and caring for them. It's just a matter of kind of changing how they do that. If you're feeding them on your front porch, that's where they're always going to come. But they have a wider area that they travel, so you want to start feeding them, move them away from your place. You can still feed them. You're not going to feed them as much because you want to encourage them to manage the other items that are a nuisance. And you move that feeding further away from your home. And if they're not reproducing, then that helps. That helps control the colony. One of the nice things about the trap neuter release is that you don't have to make an appointment at Brooks for ferals. Because if you think about it, how do you ever know that you're going to trap it? I mean, let's say I want to take a cat. I'll make an appointment for Wednesday, and I set the trap Monday and Tuesday, and I catch no cat. So they take, Lynette, is it up to 10? It's
At
up
Brooks, it's 10 a day.
10 feral. Now, we have to be very careful. We probably don't want to take in more than 2 or 3. If we start showing up with 5 and 6, they're not going to look too favorably on us. But if we take in 2 or 3 several times a week, maybe, we might be able to get away with that.
There's other resources too.
There are.
Once we provide more information for the community and the feeders, if they have the information, they may be willing to, TNR their own colony cats because they've been caring for them.
Exactly.
They just don't know how to go about it.
Exactly.
So I feel like if we
That
provide
would be my wish.
Right.
No,
We're
absolutely.
not trying to solve other people's problems.
No.
But providing them the resource information to know how to take a class and use the resources available
exactly.
to them, that'll help. So it's not so much the city's problem or fees.
Right.
So we're on E.
We are on D.
So what exactly do you have in mind as far as the program? What would it entail?
Well,
Is that we will, in effect,
work with
Trap
those,
cats.
we will work with getting them trapped and neutered and
release
work
them.
and released back, and work with finding somebody that can manage the colony. How do you do this? Do you want to propose ordinance for the next meeting? We could do that.
This is what you sent me in January.
Oh, I was like, wow, you're good. How'd you find that? I already knew about that one. So what we could do is ask the city attorney to draft an ordinance related to trap, neuter, release. And she has reference to, it's the Alley Cats, allies, yeah. And then we could consider that, and that might further define really what we're doing.
right, because this in effect is going to tap into our animal control budget.
It is.
So when we look at the cost for the shelter, cost for electricity and all, when we get to this part for the TNR program, would it be feasible, advisable to set a limit as to how many we would do
We could do
per
that.
quarter? Say,
Yeah, we could
okay,
certainly do
We're
that.
not going to do more than 10 cats per quarter under the TNR program. But then you have to look at what effect is that gonna have on the colony if we still got females running around that are still dropping more
Hopefully by
kittens, having more
then,
kittens.
the person, if the city's willing to cover X per quarter,
Right.
then hopefully by then we'll have more community members involved.
That are willing to.
And then have something set in place and it will.
And so we went to the TNR class that was held through the Feral Cat Coalition. And anyone who wants to get involved can go to that class, and basically you get the feral cat fix for free. Now, you have to put a deposit down on the trap if you use their trap, but you get that back when you return the trap. So in essence, it doesn't cost anything. There are 3 locations that they can, there was 151. Was Brooks part of that?
You can use Brooks, the Humane
But Brooks-
Society, 151, or Hill Country.
But only 151 was free
If you registered for a voucher.
if you registered for a voucher, which I need to get my voucher. So, I agree, we could work on the ordinance and define how we want to do that. And there's probably some seasonal considerations that we would need to look at as well. You know, spring is insane, yes. Okay. You want to make a motion?
Are we going to address the attorney who created ordinance, creating the, with the establishment of a trap neuter release program? With some stipulation on the number of TNRs we'll do per quarter.
And we'll
Per quarter.
per quarter.
Yeah,
And we'll come up with what, knowing.
You can leave that blank and we can.
Yeah, we'll figure that out. So is that a motion?
Yes, that was motion.
Okay.
I'm instructing the attorney to prepare an ordinance authorizing the creation of a trap neuter release program.
To include a limit.
To include a limitation on a number of TNRs.
Per quarter.
Per quarter.
Okay,
I second that.
and Alderman Walker seconds that. Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. And it's these, I always go back to the elephant. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. There's another bite right there. Okay. Discuss, item E, discuss and or possible action on purchase of animal traps specifically for cats in support of the TNR program. So there are specific cages that are needed for the TNR program. Now, they are True Heart, is that what they're called? True Catch, TRU Catch. And they're different, a little bit different from the spring-loaded. And the reason that you don't want to use the spring-loaded is because as the cat goes in, when it trips that, it can scare the cat. It could clip its tail. It could have a kitten following it, that it's going to kill the kitten. These other traps just have a drop-down door. It's not spring-loaded like that. It's just like our dog traps that have the rings that go down to lock the door closed. In order to open it, you got to raise the rings and then the door opens. It's the same concept.
Can we table this until the ordinance is passed?
We can do that. Okay.
Move that we table.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to table this until the ordinance.
We might include it in the ordinance authorizing the purchase of.
We wouldn't include that in the ordinance, would we?
Probably not, it could be with a separate
Right.
motion or separate, not with the ordinance specifically.
Okay, we'll just table this one for now, indefinitely, until we get everything done. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay to table and a second by Alderman Rapino. Can I get a show of hands? That is unanimous. Okay. Item F, discuss and or possible action on recruiting fosters and volunteers and creating a waiver form. So one of the challenges that we have had has been to find people to help foster the animals. And I'm fostering 3 kittens right now from this bunch of 20. And I think those little nuggets are about ready to move on to their next place. But it's just a matter of somebody who has the ability. I mean, I don't have a whole lot of time. I'm gone most of the day at work, but I take care of them in the morning and the evenings, and they're getting nice and fat and ready to go. But we need people who are willing to step up and foster and help with this problem. And I think we have a number of people that are here that have expressed an interest to do that. So because this would be a city-sponsored program, we talked about a waiver form that we may need for anyone who wants to volunteer to be a foster. So I think what we might want to do is work with the attorney on this one as well, let her kind of maybe include that in, well, we can't do it on the TNR, we need a separate, maybe a separate ordinance on that one.
I don't think it needs to be in, well,
For the waivers.
For the waivers, it doesn't need to be an ordinance, just an approval of the form.
But,
That's the form that you looked at already.
Yes. And since you have comments, that's what
okay.
I just didn't know if it was on recruiting fosters and volunteers, but I don't think, you don't need an ordinance for that.
Okay, and I think I have that in here somewhere. That's the one that we looked at the meeting earlier this week? Yeah,
It's
okay.
got 3 or 4 pages.
Yes, and it had your handwritten notes on it?
Yes.
Recommendations? Oh, yes, that's the one.
Don't keep this one.
Yeah, I didn't have a Word copy, so I just
It's on the, her
made.
comments.
With her comments, okay.
Last 2 pages, I think.
And we didn't give this out to the council members?
Yeah, they got it via email.
Oh, okay. Have you,
No,
We
not,
chose to,
not the council members.
oh, council,
We
no,
gave it to the
because
committee
we
members.
hadn't approved it yet. We didn't go over it last,
the
on
the
Monday.
ACAC did not go over? I thought we did.
No, they
because there
needed
was-
copies,
There were some people that were not there.
so they asked for
Okay.
electronic copy and I.
So I'm gonna say that we probably table this one for right now and let the Animal Control Advisory Committee come back with their recommendation. I'm just gonna pull this one instead of waiting on a motion on that one. Okay, item H, discuss and or possible action on removing Alderman Thomasini as chairman of the Animal Control Advisory Committee and replacing chairmanship with another alderman. And this is from Alderman Thomasini and Alderman Tremblay.
There has to
Well,
be a
I move
motion.
that we remove Alderman Thomasini as the chairman of the Animal Control Advisory Committee.
And replace with who?
And it's open for volunteers.
So do you want to do this in 2 pieces? Okay, so we have a motion to remove Alderman Thomasini as the chairman of the Animal Control Advisory Committee. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Oh my. Alderman Rapino has seconded. Can I get a show of hands of all in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, so the second part
I'd
is nominations.
move to nominate Alderman Walker as the chair of the Animal Control.
How many, when is the meeting?
Twice a week on Mondays.
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
Twice a month.
Twice a week. Every other day.
Which week's of the?
I think under the ordinance, when it was created, I don't think the requirement was that they meet twice a month. I think the requirement.
That's what they decided.
Really, that's probably kind of
Actually-
often, it could probably be amended.
Well, it could, but I think right now, didn't we talk about this the other day, that we still want to keep we're trying to move things along.
They're not very long, that's what the committee.
I would be willing to accept that. I have a question before I agree.
It's on Mondays.
Does it have a co-chairperson
Right there.
in case
That's Miss Lynette.
I was not able to attend?
Yes.
Okay. Then sure.
But just so you understand,
I
that
would
the advisory committee is a tool
Correct.
for
to
the
come back
council,
here.
which
Yeah.
your meeting should bring forth some recommendations.
Right.
And I would suggest, and I don't know if this is proper to put in this context at this time, but I would like to see an agenda item for the Animal Control Advisory recommendations monthly, if you're meeting that, we should have some
So,
feedback every.
well, here's what happened at our last meeting, is that they did, same recommendation, was what they're gonna do in any week that there's a meeting. The chair would draft the minutes, basically, a list of recommendations. That will be attached to your weekly summaries that you're getting. So you'll get 2 of those a month. We can take those and make them public, post them on the website.
All right, just like to see some.
Something, activity. But just so you know, what you see here on our agenda from animal control, that's where this is coming from.
Great.
Okay.
In that case, I'd agree.
Okay, so we have a nomination from Alderman Tremblay to nominate Alderman Walker as the new chairman of the Animal Control Advisory Committee, and she has accepted.
I'd also like to add, just to thank Alderman Tomasini for his efforts that he's put into it up to this point.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Okay, so we're back on, I need a second on the recommendation, or the nomination, sorry.
I did.
Okay, Alderman Rapino has seconded, and this would be for CJ as chair. Can I get a show of hands, those in favor? It is 3 with Miss Walker abstaining. Okay, so that one passes. Okay, item I, discuss under possible action on setting up a community booth with animal care information, trap neuter release class, including purchase of a banner and a pop-up canopy. So this goes to what you were talking about, some of the other things that we're trying to do. So we're hoping to have an event, and we would like to hold it on the old Sauce property. We'd like the public to be able to come in and see the Sauce property. I mean, it's been locked up and it's like a mystery, but it shouldn't be. So they can see the potential, see what we're doing up there, see the potential for what we're trying to accomplish, but it is a easily accessible area for the public to come. We have plenty of room. The intent is to bring in a mobile vet clinic and hopefully set them up on a regular schedule, much like we did with Wellness on Wheels a few years back. We want to talk about the trap neuter release program. We're talking about possibly doing some microchipping, some other type things. So what we're hoping, and sharing this type of information right here on how it does work, how it can work. So in order to do that, we were thinking that one of those pop-up canopies and then a banner that would, we don't have a design for it yet, but if it's approved, then they'll come up with a design that would be very specific to community programs related to animal care. And I know that the pop-up canopy can be had for under $100. The sign, I think the banners, didn't we do those for like $40 a piece or something like that? So I'm thinking $200 maybe would be an easy thing to do.
Don't we need to wait until the ordinance for the
Trap
TNR
neuter.
is ready?
But it's not just for that. It's just, that was just some of the things that we're thinking about doing. We want to be able to educate, have informational materials that we put out for people on getting, why it's important to vaccinate your pet, or why spay and neuter is important, those type things. It's
Kinda
more
like
for
an open
informational.
house information type
Exactly.
event they could
We
hold.
can use it for any number of things related to animal care.
So J could be included.
I'm sorry?
J could be included in that. Perhaps discussion.
Yes, it could, yes.
Okay.
So again, I think $200, we would easily be able to you could put a not to exceed number on that if you wanted.
Okay, I move that we approve setting up a community booth with animal care information, trap and release class, including purchase of banner and pop-up canopy for not to exceed $200.
Okay. So we have a motion from Alderman Rapino to approve the purchase of a pop-up canopy and a banner not to exceed $200 for the purpose of a community booth with animal care information. Can I get a second on that?
A second.
Alderman Walker seconds. Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay, item J, discuss and/or possible action on holding a microchip clinic and establishing a fee for microchipping. So our animal control ordinance does, whose phone? Oh, that's my phone, sorry. Whose phone's ringing? Our animal control ordinance does mandate microchipping and vaccinations. And we have already purchased the microchips, and we have purchased the scanners. So now what we want to do is establish the fee for city-provided microchip services. And we came up with $10, if I'm not mistaken. And that includes the registration, which typically your microchip fee is just for the chip, not the registration. And by doing it this way, we ensure that the registration actually happens. We wanted to hold a microchip clinic, and probably included with the information and the mobile vet and all that stuff that we're trying to get together. But we also want to make it a recurring type event, maybe every 3 weeks. If we can get a mobile vet, they typically do a 3-week rotation, and just kind of fit it in with that as well. So we need to establish the fee for microchipping. And that would be included in our ordinance, our animal control ordinance. And so again, the fee would be X, and that includes the registration.
Do we need a motion?
We do.
Talk about the microchipping, and we're gonna do rabies vaccination?
We can't.
If we can get a vet.
Vaccination has to be done by vet.
If we can get
If we can get a vet.
And we're looking at bringing in a mobile vet that would be able to do that. They would be able to do wellness, and there's some other things that they can do for us as well.
Can the microchipping be a requirement? Has this ordinance that
It is.
requirement?
It's already in there. It's already in our ordinance.
Yeah, we
So I'm
passed
looking
that
for-
ordinance.
What we're looking for is
I'm
the
looking
fee.
for it.
Yeah, so you said $10.
Well, that's what we decided was a fair price, because it also includes the registration, which is typically extra. So a lot of people will go get their pet microchip, but they don't ever register because they have to pay for that.
So then I'll move to,
But I don't think that part
make the
changed.
fee for microchipping $10.
Okay.
Which will include the registration.
Okay, so we have a motion by Alderman Rapino to set a fee of $10 for microchipping, and that will include the registration. And can I get a second on that one? Alderman Walker seconds that, and can I get a show of hands? And that is unanimous. Okay, that's another bite. Okay, item 11, we're done with animal control for tonight. Well, just for right now. Municipal Court, discuss and/or possible action on approving Pitney Bowes terms and user license agreement for a postal meter. So at a previous meeting, we did talk about, we did authorize Ken Roberts to execute the agreement. And now we have it. And it's just an end-user license agreement. There's nothing spectacular here. You're going to rent their machine, and you're going to use it to download postage, and then we're going to use the postage, and then, you know. The nice thing about it, because we use the Pitney Bowes at where I work at, when they have rate changes on the postage, Pitney Bowes downloads them for you, so you don't even have to go guess what it is. And the fee is a few cents cheaper through a meter than it is using a stamp. So you do have a little bit of savings there. But this is we're doing this for the court, although we would still be able to use it for other things. But the court is the primary reason for needing this, because they'll be needing to mail notices. And that can start adding up fairly quickly. So this makes it a lot easier and more cost effective to.
And if you remember back, there's a court security fee and a court documentation fee.
Yes,
and
and
that's
that's
added on to every citation, so the rental on the machine.
becomes negligible.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, Catherine, was there anything else on this particular one that we needed to be concerned with?
Yeah, the motion last month was that, we negotiate a contract. I mean, there's no negotiating.
There's no negotiating.
It is what it is.
Yeah. So we're just gonna authorize
60 days free
Ken to execute on the agreement.
and come bring it back to council
Okay.
for approval.
We need a motion.
We need a motion, please.
So I move that we approve Pitney Bowes terms and user license agreement for posted meter and recommend Ken Roberts to deal with it.
Yes.
I'll
Here,
second
Ken,
that.
I have something for you.
Really? Sometime.
My nerves.
You want to go back and talk about some more
No,
animal
no, no,
stuff?
no, no, we're good on the animals for now. Okay, so we have a motion from Alderman Walker to have Ken Roberts execute the terms and conditions and the user license agreement with Pitney Bowes. And do we have a second on that?
I second it.
Alderman Rapino seconds. Can I get a show of hands? That is unanimous. We are almost done.
It's all right. I've been kicked.
Do you need a clean copy, Ken?
He has a posted dirty. Thank you so much.
Last item, discuss and or possible action on the purchase of a net data compatible document scanner. So in the net data is the software that the court will be using. And one of the things that we agreed to purchase was the scanning application. So guess what? We need a scanner in order to make that happen. And these two came from
From
Casey?
them. These are compatible. They did take the information off of her printer, scanner, copier, fax, and it is not compatible.
Not compatible. This is very specific to the net data software.
Exactly.
Okay.
These two are used by them.
Okay. And now, the Canon DR M160, I actually use that at work, so I'm familiar with that one, but I don't know about this other one, FI 7160. Who is that?
I have no idea.
We don't know? Okay. The cost between the two, one of them's $1,130, one's $1,145, so $15 difference in the actual scanner.
I'm just trying to figure out what the difference between the two of them is.
You're looking at all that other,
Yeah.
The Canon, we don't have a size, a paper size on the Canon limit.
60 pages a minute.
No, a limit of the size that it would do. Because I have seen little legal documents that require that.
I can do legal on this one.
You can,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
It's just not written in.
Now, pardon?
60 pages of it.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah, they both do 60.
And this is a purchase, it's not a,
It's a purchase. Yeah, it's a purchase.
So it could be used for all types. It doesn't have to be used strictly for,
No, once you've scanned the image, then she could capture it by email and,
and I can scan.
exactly. Yeah.
That's
And all of them will work with the computers that we have. won't they?
Well, remember, these are specific to the NetData software.
Oh.
These are the ones that are compatible.
I see this note here. Make sure it comes bundled with this.
I don't know what that is.
I'm
Kofax?
assuming maybe Linda made that comment.
No, I'm sure Casey did that.
Casey, do we know if that is part of that as
Make sure it
was
comes
recommended?
bundled with it.
They
Kath-
recommended this. They sent it.
Oh, Casey sent this.
Casey sent
Oh,
this.
okay.
all right, this is just another one of
Okay.
the things we have to have.
We have to have, yes.
So I move that we approve purchase of the Canon DR M160 for a cost not to exceed $1,130.
I'll second.
Not to exceed 11:30. And we have a motion. Yeah, can we bump that up a little bit for shipping, or, I don't know, there may be some additional cost.
I'll approve the Costs $1,130 plus shipping. We don't know what shipping is gonna cost. We're gonna
Okay.
pay it, so.
I'll second.
Plus shipping, okay. So we have a motion by Alderman Tremblay and a second by Alderman Rapino to purchase the Canon DR M160. Can I get a show of, not to exceed $1,300 plus shipping? Can I get a show of hands of those in favor? That is unanimous. And I will let you know that we are going to adjourn at 9:50 p.m. And thank you, everybody. And I promise we'll do shorter meetings going forward.